missing story that maps onto reality, and that's why the central narrative is falling apart.
Right now in the United States, people should not be walking around with masks.
We must see the central narrative for the fiction that it is. We are Americans.
While elections are sometimes messy, this was a secure election.
The founders began the fight for human liberty and self-governance, and it's up to us to finish the job.
I tell you what, we are in a truth emergency right now.
This is the end game.
All the people that have gone out there against the mainstream media and said, you're going to call us racist, you're going to call us potential Timothy McVeighs, fuck you. War.
Immensely seductive. Quite sure he's right. Immensely seductive. Quite sure he's right. An obsessionally neurotic. Pretty dangerous, in fact.
Do you mean you doubt your powers to convince him?
Worse than that. What I'm afraid of is his power to convince me.
Let us never tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories.
Say it! Say it!
All right, I'll say it.
We're talking about putting a manifestly irresponsible man on national television.
Sweetheart, be reasonable.
All right, everybody, here we are. It is Friday, January 10th, 2025, the 1451st day of dystopia. I'm your moderator, Chris Paul. Let's get ready to rumble. Let's be reasonable. All right, I have so many very interesting things lined up for us to discuss today. And I think we're going to have a whole lot of fun. As soon as I can make absolutely 100% sure that I did not. You know, you think you've airdropped something and it just turns out you haven't. It's all going to be okay. All right. So we left off on Wednesday talking about the new tech landscape and censorship and AI and the convergence or divergence of the false reality layer layered onto reality prime in terms of the public consciousness and understanding right now, considering how it's built through storytelling, through various mediums, mostly now online, on television, and social media, of course, counts as online. We're having a world built for us by what we consume that has nothing to do with our senses, right? It's not being told to us by people we know. We might trust them because they seem like they are trustworthy, but we don't know them. And eventually, the world that the part of the reality as we perceive it out there, not our direct informed reality, but out there, is going to collapse for a lot of people. Or conversely, it could just, alternatively, I should say, go on forever. Could go on forever. If everybody decides to go that direction, it's going to go on for a very, very long time. And those of us who don't want to participate in that reality are going to have a real hard time. And, you know, that's how the story goes sometimes. I hope the story's not going that way this time, and I don't think it has to. It'll go one way or the other. So we were talking about some of the advancements on X, formerly Twitter, and I say advancements in quotes, and Facebook was no longer going to be doing blatant, overt censorship. Their censorship method was going to change, and it would be community notes, so that would be real people, your peers, is the suggestion, telling you what is true and what is false about the world, because they're able to find links and sources online. Well, that is the argumentation of people who are asleep. Links and sources are appeals to authority. And usually they're done by a series of credentials, right? The New York Times used to be, not now, but used to be the authoritative source of highest repute, unless you were actually reading like a white paper from a think tank or a paper produced by some university department or something. If you were going direct to the source, fine. But in terms of telling you how the world actually is, the New York Times was where you would go. And then you would play a game of links and sources with someone. And, you know, you would start at CNN and they'd be like, well, Fox News says this. And then you'd work your way up to the New York Times. And finally, whoever plays the New York Times card first, that's the winner of the argument. Now, that's not argumentation at all. You're not having an argument with someone when you are exchanging links and sources and saying, this is right, no, this is right. That's not an argument. That's just playing links and sources. Okay. Argument means that there's like logical qualifications, and those have to be followed. You can't just say, well, this article says you're wrong. Okay. That's meaningless. Community notes is this article says you're wrong. That's meaningless. It's not a fact check. Fact checking isn't even a real thing. Okay. You can go down levels below authoritative sources and find out that on a great many things, there's not some hard and fast truth. Oh, you're citing a study? Who did the study? A government funded organization? Well, did they fudge the numbers a little bit so that they could keep getting funding? Probably, but you don't know. But since the answer is probably, well, you can't trust the number. So that's not part of reality. You should know that that's not part of reality. And it might be in the direction of something that might be true. You might say, well, it's the best thing we've got, but it's not the best thing we've got, because the only thing you know about that number is that it's not true. It's crazy to me. It's crazy. And so we're embracing now the idea of community notes, and we're seeing covers for the censors. We've forgiven Twitter completely, right? Elon Musk being put in a position to be the face of Twitter and be cute and funny while Linda Yaccarino runs things could all be an op. But otherwise, we've forgiven the platform that caused maybe the most trouble, censored President Trump, censored people like me. Why are we doing that? Right? I mean, it's still censored. It's not that it's not censored now. Like the problem is definitely gone. It's not even close to the problem is definitely gone. The problem is definitely there. I mean, it's obviously definitely there. So then why would we pretend otherwise? And we do pretend otherwise because I guess it's like cool to pretend we're internet friends with Elon Musk. Elon's a cool guy, fine. I'd like to have a conversation with him. I think he's an interesting man. I don't know if I'd be allowed to ask whatever questions I want. And I also just wouldn't ask him totally annoying things. I'm not trying to, like interfere with what it is he's doing, but I would like to understand what his intentions are on a much deeper level than right now. But there's nothing cool about being internet friends with him, especially not pretending to be internet friends with him. Oh, I'll just act the way that Elon Musk acts and wants me to act on Twitter. And then I will be part of like his internet bloodline. I'm going to take care of Elon because I know he's taking care of me. What are we doing? Okay. Community notes is censorship. It's this link says you're wrong. Somebody else says this link says you're wrong. And then they vote on it or something. And to be clear, if you're able to actually verify users, first of all, which may be part of a decentralized social media future. So again, like Grok, I said the other day, the tool community notes, I'm not saying there's nothing to it. Okay. I'm just saying it's censorship. It's a method of censorship. And it's obviously a method of conversation manipulation, no matter what. Maybe if there's a way to verify every user is a real user, maybe that would be better. Like in some kind of blockchain future, fine. It's not what's happening here. And the other thing is, people are going to have to figure out what's true and what's not on their own. And if you can't do it, don't have an opinion. It's so simple. Just don't have an opinion. If someone says, this terrible thing happened. Yeah, that does sound really terrible. Okay? That is all of the empathy you have to provide. Yes, I agree with you that that thing sounds terrible. Were you there? Did it happen to you? Did you see it? Do you know anybody it happened to? If none of those things are true, then what are we doing? I saw this on the news. I'm sure you did. A lot of people, and we're going to talk about some of this later, but the California stuff is mind-blowing to me. And let's just, we'll pause on that. We'll pause on that. Okay. So with that, let me play this clip while I pull up the next thing. This was MSNBC this morning, worried that the internet has now become real, which threatens their reality in incredible ways. And to be honest, you can't blame them. You can't blame them. I don't know what these people are going to do. Here we are.
To be though, Mika, for users, right? We have to remember at the end of the day, if Mark Zuckerberg and all these business leaders make business decisions to make money, remember, we're the ones who use the product. So no longer is there fact checking. And remember, they also rolled back the rules on hate speech. So if now anyone can say anything and there's no protections, then all the people that use these platforms need to decide, do I want to be here? Do I want to drive in a car with no seatbelts? Do I want to get on a roller coaster with no safety protections whatsoever? And if users suddenly say no, well, then advertisers will say no. Then Mark Zuckerberg will have a different business decision to make. But right now, they're making this short term. Well, let's just see how it works out. And how it's going to work out could be terrible.
Yes. It's all a business decision. They're kissing up to Donald Trump because he's going to be president again. They're donating to his inauguration. They're kissing up to the new king. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get him back on their side. and they know that he could be mean to them. So as a business decision, they're changing their model. Is that what it is? I doubt that's what it is. If it is that, again, we talked about this the other day, censorship on these sites, you're trying to put out what you think or what you've seen. How about we are the media now, right? Isn't that what Elon Musk says all the time and all his little grovelers say all the time? We are the media now. Well, how's that going to be the case if the algorithm diminishes people providing negative content and Community Notes is verifying whether or not what we, the media, not the channel, are saying as true and limiting what we're allowed to get out there if they determine it's not true by playing a game of links and sources, appeals to authority. It's just censorship, okay? It's just the forcing of a public consensus. And that's the same purpose the radio used to serve, the legacy media used to serve, the original round of censorship used to serve. It's propaganda and censorship. If you want free speech, open it up. Otherwise, don't call it free speech. Say, hey, we're doing the best we can do to provide a service that everybody enjoys and gives them some information about what's going on. Okay? Because that's what it actually is. It's not the best source for news. It's a terrible source for many forms of information, and it advertises itself to people as the place they will definitely figure out what's going on. Isn't it weird that they never figure out what's going on? Hey, can anybody tell me what the outcome on the Cybertruck bomber was? Been like, what was that, New Year's Day? Been 10 days? What do we got? Nothing? It's mind-blowing to me. It really is. We're going to come back to that. This post on X, formerly Twitter, was from last night, and I'm trying to find Elon's response to it. I think he said, it is quite a coincidence. Here we are. Okay, good. He said, just a coincidence, with a winky face emoji to this post on X, formerly Twitter, by Stephanie Tyler. Wild Bear Step. So she's Stephanie. Okay, got it. I think I've given full credit to this post, which is okay. So let me get this straight. Nikola Tesla dies, and the only person allowed access to his safe, the one containing all his most secret inventions, is John G. Trump, a brilliant MIT scientist, and, oh yeah, Donald Trump's uncle, who conveniently says, nothing to see here, while the government quietly packs up Tesla's life's work. Then in 1958, a trackdown episode features a con man named Walter Trump selling people a magic wall to save them from the end of the world. But wait, it gets weirder. Back in the 1890s, Ingersoll Lockwood writes about Baron Trump, a kid from Castle Trump, going on wild adventures with a guy named Don, and then writes The Last President, where chaos breaks out in America after the election of an outsider. Fast forward to 1953, and Werner von Braun, the father of rocket science, publishes a book about humans colonizing Mars, led by a guy literally called Elon. And today we've got Elon Musk, who runs Tesla, named after Nikola Tesla, and is obsessed with getting us to Mars, and is not only working with Trump, but quite literally got him elected. No, he didn't. And has even visited his magic wall. How is this not the wildest, most ridiculous, too weird to be real conspiracy of coincidences ever? Like, who's writing this timeline? It's a fucking sim. Okay. Well, thank you for the retelling of the story. Thank you for attracting Elon Musk's just a coincidence winky face. But, you know, save the commentary, lady. No one got Donald Trump elected besides Donald Trump, the military, and potentially, definitely the support of far more millions of Americans than they tell us on TV. So very interesting. Now Elon Musk is saying, yes, all of this is the case. Donald Trump and I, we were destined to come together in exactly this way, or perhaps we were this way all the time. Or perhaps they're both just constructs. And hey, man, I know that people don't like when anyone thinks stuff like that about Donald Trump, and I get it. Because he is the hero. And he is a hero. And he is heroic. And I understand why Americans love him. I love him for all those reasons. But also, things are real weird. And it's, in my mind, basically a guarantee that we've been under military government for at least the last 4 years, maybe far longer than that. And perhaps it is just the military protecting our country while the people take back their government. And the people have not done that, despite Donald Trump being declared the winner of a fake election. So there's more work to go. And it is upon all of us to go do that work. And is upon all of us to understand the situation we actually are in and be corresponding with that situation so that we do not constantly get hoodwinked over and over and over again as though all we love in life is being hoodwinked. And some people do act an awful lot like all they love in life is being hoodwinked. Okay, so the videos that I believed I had airdropped on myself were not, in fact, airdropped upon me. So we must pause while I do those. And apparently, there are my very special videos. Okay, I think we're good. I think we're good here. Let's hold on. Apologies. I don't know why things are going so slow. I just paid to upgrade to the mightiest internet that has ever been interneted, and it's the same. And that is something that has annoyed me for a very, very long time. Because I'm like, these speeds are bullshit. You know, they can just put whatever number they want in the little number machine, and then people are like branching off your line and stuff. Oh, it's all such nonsense. Let us watch the fake president. Nah, let's do this in a second. Okay, so let's stick with Zuck. Sorry about all of the hold for processing. I know that people say they don't mind the hold for processing, but I mind it. I mind it. So apparently, Mark Zuckerberg went on the Joe Rogan Limited Hangout today. The Joe Rogan Limited Hangout experience. And he said some things about the government and censorship. There's two clips here. Let's hit this one.
Put in place a system that would deal with it. And early on tried to basically make it so that it was really limited. We're like, all right, we're just going to have this system where there's these third-party fact checkers and they can check the worst of the worst stuff, right? So things that are very clear hoaxes, that there's like, it's not like we're not parsing speech about whether something is slightly true or slightly false, like Earth is flat, things like that, right? So that was sort of the original intent. We put in place the system and it just sort of veered from there. I think to some degree, it's because some of the people whose job is to do fact checking, a lot of their industry is focused on political fact checking. So they're just kind of veered in that direction. And we kept on trying to basically get it to be what we had originally intended, which is just, it's not, the point isn't to like judge people's opinions. It's to provide this layer to kind of help fact check some of the stuff that seems the most extreme. But it just, it was just never accepted by people broadly. I think people just felt like the fact checkers were too biased. Not necessarily even so much in what they ruled, although sometimes I think people would disagree with that. A lot of the time, it was just what types of things they chose to even go and fact check in the first place. So, I kind of think like after having gone through that whole exercise, it I don't know, it's something out of like 1984, one of these books where it's just like it really is a slippery slope, and it just got to a point where it's just okay, this is destroying so much trust, especially in the United States, to have this program. And I guess it was probably about a few years that I really started coming to the conclusion that we were going to need to change something about that.
I mean, first of all, that stuff's just not true. Like he's giving a statement that has probably gone through many rounds of public relations and scripting. All right. If you are concerned about people talking about flat Earth, then you do care about what people's opinions are, and you do care about what's going out there in the public conversation. That's not something that needs to be eliminated from the public conversation. I don't know if it's right or it's wrong. Why does it need to be eliminated, though? I've never understood that. What is so dangerous about that question unless they're lying? And of course, it's provable, easily provable that they are lying. None of their numbers for anything makes sense. No part of their story makes sense or is independently provable. It's just one coherent system of bullshit. And that is not suggestive of any shape of the world. So those two things are separate, but they're obviously lying all the time. Now, that's not the point, okay? So government censorship and all of that, he's talking about, damn it, I just, when I went into that part, I lost my train of thought. Let me pull that up one more time. Apologies. I want to make sure that I get this right and not try to walk my way back into it. It's like 30 seconds.
Put in place, a lot of their industry is focused on political fact checking. So they're just kind of veered in that direction. And we kept on trying to basically get it to be what we had originally intended, which is just, it's not, the point isn't to like judge people's opinions. It's to provide this layer to kind of help fact check some of the stuff that seems the most extreme. But it just, it was just never accepted by people broadly. I think people just felt like the fact checkers were too biased. Not necessarily even so much in what they ruled, although sometimes I think people would a lot of their industry. So that was sort of the original intent. We put in place the system and it just sort of veered from there. I think to some degree, it's because some of the people whose job is to do fact checking, a lot of their industry is focused on political fact checking. So
ridiculous. The people who were fact checking are a problem, but not the problem. The problem is one of epistemology. As always, people are going to have to deal with an information environment that they cannot trust. And I did an entire episode on this and some other things called zero trust. We operate in a zero trust information space. Zero trust means zero trust. It does not mean that you ignore all the other information or say it's wrong. It's just there's no reason to believe that's true. That's it. Okay? We are being told a story. And the visible story elements are true in as much as something can be true. Or I should say real in as much as something can be real. The story is actually real because the story is meant to be a catalyst for people's belief and therefore their behavior. Okay. So the story is what is being fed to us. We are receiving that story in a real way. That is the real thing. The event is real in reality prime in an extraordinarily local way. All right. Everything else from that is the story of the event. It is either true or false or neither. I don't know what else to say. All right. The only thing you have access to is the story, unless you have direct experience, or in certain cases, the direct experience of someone you trust. Everything else is disbelieved until you know it's true, except for the fact that they are telling you what they want you to think. That's it. You know, I don't know, man. I don't want to belabor this, all right? And I know that many of you are probably among my more committed viewers over the years, so you've heard it plenty of times. But the application of a consistent and honestly usable epistemology is necessary. Like, you can't just think, 4 out of 5 of my most trusted favorite podcasters are saying the same thing. So I think it's that. And if I'm wrong, well, everybody else thought that too. That's what people did in COVID. It is amazing how easy it is to simply COVID everybody again. And everybody's getting COVIDed right now on the California fires. And again, we'll talk about that later. But it is just remarkable that people think that there is a limit of importance of events, that once the limit is hit, you can't ask questions about it anymore. Oh, man, I don't know. That's just too important and too emotional to be able to ask questions about. Well, you're saying that the most important events cannot be questioned? And that I'm the problem? The most important and most emotional events are the ones that need to be questioned the most. Any form of restriction in the public conversation makes it a censored conversation. It has to be taken into account all the time. And we're going to see some info ops as we go throughout the show today. But man, oh man. And it's got to be something that everybody comes to themselves. And so if you sense frustration, if you sense anger at me, it's frustration. Okay. This is our mission. This is our journey. This is our quest. So I accept that. But watching people jump back into those modes is just so weird. And then the gatekeepers come out and tell you what you're not allowed to talk about. You're allowed to talk about absolutely everything. Okay. That's what free speech means. You can talk about everything. And in a zero trust information environment, people should talk about everything, because sometimes it's that little 1% voice that you just heard and kind of forgot about while all the noise took hold. That's the thing that sticks with you. And then when the eventuality appears in reality, from that little voice, oh, that's what that is. Whereas all the other 99% of people are left with their mouths wide open, wondering what's happening to them. Okay. You have to look ahead. You have to. And so, I mean, the idea that people who are truthers are still being triggered by this shit. Like, at some point, it's like, grow up, This is what I said yesterday on Truth Social. Gatekeepers are just the absolute worst as far as I'm concerned. The point of right now is not to normie-splain everything and gatekeep so everyone knows how responsible you are. The point is to let people know when they're realizing the government is awful, not only how awful the government is, but how it's also illegitimate. lies to you about everything on purpose, and regularly commits atrocities in your name while charging you for it. No one needs to make sure people aren't, quote unquote, going a bit too far. No one has time for that nonsense. We have people who are supposedly on our side holding back the process intentionally so that they can seem authoritative about subjects they don't really know anything about. Isn't that strange? At some point, when do you perceive that as hostile activity? I've perceived it as hostile activity for years, but, people have their reputations and, oh no, that's not what they're doing. They're just trying to like keep the conversation on track. Okay. You say so. One more Zuckerberg. Where is it? I always hit the wrong thing when the video is actually just on my computer. Here we are.
These people from the Biden administration would call up our team and like scream at them and curse. And it's like these documents it's all kind of out there.
Oh, did you record any of those phone calls?
I don't think we, but I think
I want to listen.
I mean, there are emails, the emails are published. It's all kind of out there. And they're like, and basically it just got to this point where we were like, no, we're not gonna take down things that are true. That's ridiculous. They wanted us to take down this meme of Leonardo DiCaprio looking at a TV talking about how 10 years from now or something, you're going to see an ad that says, okay, if you took a COVID vaccine, you're eligible for, for this kind of payment, like this sort of like class action lawsuit type meme. And they're like, no, you have to take that down. And we just said, no, we're not going to take down humor and satire. We're not going to take down things that are true. And then at some point, I guess, I don't know, it flipped a bit. I mean, Biden, when he gave some statement at some point, I don't know if it was a press conference or to some journalists, where he basically was like, these guys are killing people. And I don't know, then like all these different agencies and branches of government basically just like started investigating, coming after our company. It was brutal. It was brutal.
Wow.
Well, the one thing about all of this is that he's stating quite clearly that Facebook should be seen as an agent of the state at that point, and that the First Amendment rights of the American people were overtly and blatantly and publicly violated on an absolutely massive scale. That's just like one of those things that's undeniable. Yet still people deny it. They're a private company with Section 230 protections. Well, first of all, they're not a private company. Second of all, they are definitely acting as agents of the state. The government is forbidden to delegate that which it's not allowed to do. So it doesn't matter. They're operating as an agent of the state. The record of interference is there, but who cares? The thing about Stephanie Ruhle and the business, the other side of that was she was encouraging people to hopefully leave Facebook and Twitter and whatever, because they were going to be dangerous spaces. Everybody's going to leave. Well, everybody has the tools on all these sites to make sure that they don't see any of that stuff if they don't want to see that stuff. So why would people leave? Are they trying to send people to Blue Sky? It seems like there is just a massive censorship effort ongoing. And we're going to come back. We're going to come back to the censorship thing. I think I want to do it in this order. So when I posted those Zuckerberg videos, a person in my Telegram chat popped up and said, that is dissolving the footprint. And so this is Boone Cutler, who many of you are probably familiar with, on X, formerly Twitter, 9 days ago. He said the term dissolving the footprint in the context of the intelligence community refers to the process of eliminating or minimizing the evidence of an operation or activity, making it difficult to detect or trace back to the originating entity. Let me take a second and see if I can just quickly find this post because it goes on. I didn't notice that earlier. Perhaps I can locate this so that we can read the whole post. What's happening? Sometimes things just don't work out, you know? We're almost there. One day we might even be all the way there. Apparently not today. No, not going to happen. Okay. Well, we're going to have to just leave that post where it is unless somebody can pull that up, and then maybe we'll come back to it. But I think that is a great phrase. I wasn't familiar with it until today. Dissolving the footprint. It kind of gives a great visual, right? The footprint is there. The evidence is there. It's very clear if someone can get to it and extract it. And so if you want to cover that evidence up, there are multiple ways to do it. But the one that'll make it look like nothing ever happened is to just inundate the area with water, right? It all just disappears into that water, and then the water dries and the ground's flat. I think that's a really interesting way to put it. But yes, it's a cover-up of the evidence. It's a series of limited hangouts and other operations that take the responsibility off the people. Now, a lot of people would say the PayPal mafia, Elon Musk, all these tech bros, Jeff Bezos, all of them, this is a long-term operation that's been going on 20 years, and they're just doing their parts in that operation, and this is going to present us this new tech infrastructure, and at that point, everything's going to be hunky-dory. We just got to let them cook. And I get it. Maybe that's the answer. Okay. We can think about everything that way. It's all right to run it through that lens. But if we're talking about an information environment of zero trust, where you know that the only things you really do know about the people are their faces of DARPA technology, their corporations have done abjectly horrible things to the American people by and large. Do you give them the benefit of the doubt? Oh, he's come clean. They're all a part of a plan. Therefore, he's a good guy. Let's not worry about that online censorship thing anymore. They got that all taken care of. They have recognized the problem. They have suggested the solution that they're about to bestow upon us. So they got it now. I don't do that. I think that is absolutely bonkers. Okay. I just said the same thing in a different way about Elon Musk. We don't need to give these people the benefit of the doubt. All right. I know that it is soothing to look at everything that happens in a certain context, and the other side seems totally not soothing. Like it's jarring. You don't want to think about it because it causes some cognitive dissonance. But again, when I'm the one causing cognitive dissonance, remember, like I literally came up with a phrase to, I hate saying literally where it's not appropriate. I came up with a phrase a couple of years ago to describe my philosophy. I'm an American maximalist. Okay. The founding mythology of America, as is not what the founders said, but the actual founding mythology. I am a maximalist on that. I will carry that out to the end, and I think that that's what should be done. All right. I also believe we're on the dawn of an American Renaissance. So there's nothing pessimistic or blackpilling about me. I am sorry that I upset people's feelings about things they saw on TV or maybe things that they think they saw from 50 miles away. But you know, zero trust means zero trust. And it means no heroes. And, you know, there's a book that says we're not supposed to have heroes at all, right? We have made idols out of these people. And it's very, very strange. I don't hate Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, most people, like I would say that as far as we know, barring the instance of that special ongoing long-term plan, he's a bad guy, right? That's what we sense. That's what's on the surface. I don't know better than to say that. So that's my opinion right now. It could change in the future. But I don't need to go around playing secret white hats because something has caused me cognitive dissonance. There are aspects to all of this stuff that's very bad. There are aspects of this stuff that should be horrifying. All of these people are scientific materialists, are they not? They seem to have a massive, enormous amount of power. I don't imagine that they're going to hold to the American founding mythology with that power, being that they are scientific materialists and transhumanists, most of them. Mark Zuckerberg was trying to create a metaverse. We could be in a metaverse right now for all we know. Yeah, this isn't Mark Zuckerberg's our new best friend now. People are strange about that stuff. They present these things. They're very authentic about it. They understand your concerns, and then they sell the new program to you. And that's what Mark Zuckerberg is doing while the footprint dissolves. You're like, oh, thank you for giving us the heads up on what's coming down the line, Mark. You're changing to community notes, which means you don't have your censorship program in place anymore. Well, thank goodness, man. That is just great. What a dawn of a new America. And who's disseminating that up for him? Well, Joe Rogan is. Of course, Joe Rogan is. Right? So, in a zero trust environment, is Joe Rogan our best friend? That would be insane. Elon thinks community notes is the greatest advancement in truth in mankind's history. That's what he says, okay? Maybe he doesn't believe it, all good. But it's what he says, and it's obviously not true. In fact, it is an inverted truth. There's no reason to be making excuses for people with wealth and power that you could never imagine in your wildest dreams, who acquired that wealth and power while the entire world has been totally infiltrated by this very global regime. We are witnessing some of the most evil people in the history of mankind. And we're like, well, I don't know, man. He did say some nice things about us. Okay. All right. Bet we're not going to get anywhere close to what I thought we were going to do today. Huh? How about that? Did it again. Nailed it. Nailed it, you might say. It's all getting crazy over here. Where are we? There we are. Okay, let's do this. This is, so Donald Trump had his trial today. Yeah, you know, his appearance in his court case in New York over Stormy Daniels' hush money and blah, blah, blah. It was that, the Alvin Bragg one. Yeah, I was like, oh, they're all so stupid. So he did not have to show up. He appeared by video. They gave him, I can't remember what it's called. his judgment that he is definitely a convicted felon, and that's it. Like, no jail time, nothing else. Just, you're a convicted felon now. We get to officially call you a convicted felon. That was the big bonus. That was what people spent all their time on this trial for. And don't get me wrong, parts of it were entertaining, but that's the only value, okay?
Crimes are felonies. The court must set forth in the record the reasons for its action. The American public has the right to a presidency unencumbered by pending court proceedings or ongoing sentence-related obligations. But imposing this sentence ensures that finality. Sentencing the defendant permits this court to enter judgment, to cement the defendant's status as a convicted felon while he pursues whatever appeals he intends to pursue.
Ah, yeah, sounds serious. So this clip's interesting, right? So it's an unconditional discharge. I was about to say nocturnal emission, and I was like, that can't be it. So he's not getting any kind of penalty in the fake election. All right, fake election, fake indictment, fake case, fake trial, and now fake conviction. This talks about how the purpose of all this is to be able to call him a convicted felon. It states it plainly there. And this clip is interesting to me because it very well may go viral. And at the end of it, let's just listen to the very, very end again, because I think it's so interesting, the wording he used.
To enter judgment, to cement the defendant's status as a convicted felon while he pursues whatever appeals he intends to pursue.
To cement his status as a convicted felon while he pursues any appeals he intends to pursue. So if you took the first 31 seconds of that 36-second clip and you were a child brain communist or some kind of like deranged normie, you would be like, oh man, Trump is a convicted felon. This is so powerful. And then the last 5, it just goes into your brain without wanting it there while he pursues whatever appeals he intends to pursue. It is a magical and amazing information operation, either that or the spontaneous reality that is constantly emerging is so bountiful in its wonder. I think I saw a Rumble rant. I'm going to hit that real quick before we move on. Tim J, $20. Yesterday's live stream was amazing. In the old days, the subscriber live stream could be shared a few days later. I really want to share with my son. Can we still do that? It is going to go public on Sunday morning, that subscriber stream from Wednesday. Okay. I think that is good. I think that answers your question fully. Thank you so much for the Rumble rant. Let's continue. Okay, this is what we're continuing with. Donald Trump on Truth Social. He gave a long statement, and you may have watched us go through this today on Badlands Daily, but it is worth another round. So if you need a bathroom break, me reading this would be the ideal time for you. The radical Democrats have lost another pathetic, un-American witch hunt. Un-American. What do you think he means? Foreign occupation? Could be. I'm a conspiracy theorist, but that is what he means. After spending tens of millions of dollars, wasting over 6 years of obsessive work that should have been spent on protecting New Yorkers from violent, rampant crime that is destroying the city and state, coordinating with the Biden-Harris Department of Injustice in lawless weaponization and bringing completely baseless, illegal, and fake charges against your 45th and 47th president, me. I was given an unconditional discharge. Congratulations, sir. That result alone proves that, as all legal scholars and experts have said, here's the key part. There is no case. There was never a case. And this whole scam fully deserves to be dismissed. There is no case. There was never a case. There is no case. There was never a case. There is no case. There was never a case. That is the president saying that in what we should understand is an official statement. The real jury, the American people, have spoken. How about that? Remember all those episodes about how the American people have the final say on all of this? The court of public opinion, and there is nothing else. What this court does not matter at all. It is only the court of public opinion. It is always, only, ever the court of public opinion. What these courts do doesn't matter at all. And that's not just me saying that because I don't care. That's how it is. Okay. You go all the way back to you go all the way up to the Supreme Court in the process. What these courts say is meaningless until it is contested against the Constitution in a legitimate Supreme Court with a legitimate government trusted by the people. And even at that point, if the people broadly in public still don't agree with the Supreme Court's ruling, the people simply disband the government and deem it illegitimate. That is well within the people's power. It is our right and our duty, in the words of one Thomas Jefferson. The real jury, the American people, have spoken by reelecting me. Well, was it a real election? No, it certainly was not. But we also reelected him in 2020, and they know what everybody thinks about who should be president. So one way or another, it doesn't matter. He has a legitimate mandate of the people that makes him the leader. That's what life is. The American people have spoken by reelecting me with an overwhelming mandate in all capital letters in one of the most consequential elections in history. Yes, the one where the American Republic is restored, or the American Confederation of States, or a union of states, or whatever the final arrangement and name of arrangement is when all this is sorted out. As the American people have seen, this case had no crime, no damages, no proof, no facts, no law, only a highly conflicted judge who was not even a legitimate judge, a star witness who is a disbarred, disgraced, serial perjurer and actor, and criminal election interference. Today's event was a despicable charade, obviously, and now that it is over, we will appeal this hoax, which has no merit, and restore the trust of Americans in our once great system of justice, make America great again. It's not me telling you. Yes, I did say all of these things 2 years ago, and people said I was crazy and irresponsible and trying to mislead people somehow. Here is President Trump saying all the things that I've been saying for 2 years. And I'm not, again, trying to single myself out. It is important to recognize the truth when it emerges as fast as you possibly can all the time. I'm not saying because I'm saying it. I'm saying in your life, as soon as you're like, that's true, don't doubt your feeling. Explore it. No matter how bad it is, you have to. There's no other way for it. For real. There are many other people out there who can detect truth that I cannot detect. Okay. I never want to be anybody's source of news. I never want to be the guy that everybody trusts. Okay. I just want to talk about how we think these things through. And if that provides me a living, wonderful. Otherwise, people should find someone else. Okay. I'm not the news. When people detect things before other people detect them and they say them clearly, you can accept it at the time you hear it, or you can accept it much later on if it's true. Okay. If it's true, you could have known it was true when it was said the first time rather than 2 or 3 years later. That 2 or 3 year gap, that is a gap on an informational timeline. You are behind real time relative to that issue. And that's a problem. Because what happened in the last 2 or 3 years relative to that issue? How much time did you spend? How much time did you potentially waste? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with following these things as a hobby in your free time if you think it's fun. Like if you have your job and you're like copacetic on everything and you're really into like one of the clickbait stories like the Cybertruck bomber or some bullshit, have at it, man. I don't care what people do. I'm just saying. There are people who spent the last 2 years on these Trump indictments like crazy for no reason. They were fake, obviously, at the beginning because every single element of them had an element of fakeness at a fundamental foundational level. Like, what more do you want? Because you see, the thing is, in the view of statists and grovelers, the case has to go the right way because otherwise the state is going to do the bad thing to our idol, and then they're going to do the bad thing to us. And I understand that as a fear. But the state is not your authority, okay? The state has no right to do any of those things to you. And when everybody actually understands that, maybe we will stop groveling and be able to think for ourselves. Like, even if the state were to have done all this to Donald Trump and then started doing it to people, we're prepared for that, right? We witnessed it for 4 years on television. You cannot comply just because they make it scary, because then they never actually have to go through with it. If everybody just bows to whatever threats they make, they don't have to do anything. And people do bow to the threats they make because they're conditioned into doing it. And they know, well, you know, it's probably not necessary, but there's no reason to cause problems for myself. I got enough other things going on. Well, if you have enough other things going on that you can ignore your principles and comply with a corrupt government, maybe eliminate some of those things. I don't know. Not everybody can do that. I understand. But if no one stands up, then nothing changes. Okay. And we can't rely on everybody else to do it. Now, you don't have to do it all the time, but you got to do it some of the time. And you got to be honest about with yourself about whether or not you're doing it. He says, couldn't be more clear. This is fake. There is no case. There never was a case. There was a story in the media. Was Donald Trump a participant in that story? Yes. As far as we know. I mean, unless Donald Trump is legitimately part of the show and that's not even Donald Trump or something like that. Those scenarios can be explored. I hate when people are like, well, that's crazy. I mean, I talked about this a second before, but if you're not thinking that you haven't reached the bottom, something's wrong. There is no bottom, okay? So he's a participant in the story on some level. Who initiated the story? It's not necessarily true that Donald Trump did from his side. The other side can be running an info op and forcing Donald Trump to respond in various ways, otherwise disrupt some other part of his program. So he goes along with things a lot. That's what it seems like to me, at least. That's my interpretation. I don't know that it's right, and you can believe what you like. But he's a participant. That does not mean it's coming from the good side, okay? These things have contours. I say this a lot, but everything is a negotiation at the top level at all times. And they'll say, if you don't do that, I'm going to do this. And then they don't do that. Well, then you got to do the bad thing or you don't. And they're not going to crack on either side. You should see widespread random violence and very natural disasters that are exploited in the rest of it as acts of war to gain leverage in negotiations. They are happy to make the people suffer, to make the people in control back down, right? They waged economic warfare on Russia when the, Ukraine, the very brutal invasion television show began. They waged economic warfare. Those sanctions had very little impact and they quickly rebounded. But putting economic sanctions on a country makes the people suffer without kinetic violence. And when you have that as the regime, because you're in control of all the world's money, then you can use that to immediately subdue nations by inflicting punishment and suffering on the people until the leaders relent. And so in countries like we'll talk about in a couple of minutes, in countries like Venezuela, of course, their economy is going to be devastated when the anti-regime candidate isn't in there. Because what makes our economy look like it's thriving is all the new shit and new like shopping malls popping up, while the normal American people are economically devastated. We think, we're the richest country in the world. We're the strongest country in the world. First of all, we don't know that. And this country is being economically supported the same as the other regime proxy states are being supported by global regime fiat money that they can pump as much or as little of into our country as they want at all times. Yeah. When a country rejects the global regime, they will demolish that country economically. And by the way, this is a thought I've had for a long time, but I don't often verbalize because it's one of those things that people are going to get upset about and think I'm crazy about. And I have an appetite for that. I don't need to play that game every day. But one might wonder if that's what 2020 was. And you can ponder that at your leisure. We don't need to go deep into it, but our economy was devastated, was it not, in 2020? And there was a very fake pandemic and a very fake election. And those were the cover stories for all of that. And now we are building back better. Right? If you just understand, if you just kind of reconcile the timelines a little bit, we were told all that stuff was in the future. Seems like they're doing it pretty well. Seems like they're doing it all over the place. Could all be good guy stuff. Let's talk about that in a second. If we get to it, man. Wait. Okay, we're like an hour and 10 minutes in. That's not so bad. That's not so bad. I mean, the other day I went for 3 hours. That was crazy. I don't know if I have that in me today. What was I going to do? Here we are. So Trump met with the governors, I think the Republican governors yesterday, and I have not watched the whole thing yet. I should say I've watched none of it but this clip, although I hope to, because I imagine that will be wildly entertaining and informative. But Brian showed me this clip on Daily this morning, and I got to share it with you because I find it remarkable. So Trump War Room posted this, but that's kind of irrelevant. They just took a quote from the clip here.
A story that kind of disappeared at very suddenly. Do you have any idea whatever happened to the drones?
What happened to drones?
Well, you said that you knew you thought the government knew what was happening with these drones over New Jersey.
Let me also just make it very clear that the person asking him is Fox's Peter Doocy. You can tell by the voice. He has been in the room whenever there is a president or fake president, actually mostly fake president, for these last 4 years. Like he was the Joe Biden nemesis in the press corps. You might suspect that he's playing his role.
For some by Bedminster.
I don't know. They're over Bedminster a lot, so I can imagine. I'm going to give you a report on drones about 1 day into the administration, because I think it's ridiculous that they're not telling you about what's going on with the drones. And it's not only with me. Glenn was telling me today that in Virginia, they have drones all over the place, too, and nobody's reporting it. I don't know why they're not. Do you want to say something about that?
Just one quick comment, which is we are home to the largest naval base in the world in Quantico, and we house a lot of the SEAL teams and have a huge national security infrastructure. And now for 2 years running, we have had drone incursion over secure base, and we still don't know why. And I think that's absolutely unacceptable. And I think President Trump and the new leadership coming in, I think will work diligently to understand who's behind this and what we do in order to stop the digital surveillance of all of our secure infrastructure.
Well, I can tell you this. While we were dealing with a terrorist attack in New Orleans, we had drones being flown over our nuclear reactors in Louisiana. And we brought that attention to the FAA. We've been asking the FAA to give these states the ability to mitigate these drones. And it's sitting on some bureaucrat's desk. And that's real.
Nobody knows. They don't want to talk about it. Go ahead, Governor, you're going to say?
I was just going to say we have drones in Wyoming flying over our infrastructure as well. And it's incredibly frustrating that we not only have no way of knowing what it is, but nobody knows how to deal with them.
They don't want to talk about it, and nobody knows why. They don't want to talk about it. That could be us sending drones. I hope that's the case, us doing it and doing research, and maybe they don't want to talk about it from that standpoint. I hope it's not an enemy, but we're going to find out on the 21st, the day after. You have to give me a little time for the inauguration, but shortly thereafter, we'll give you a report on it. We'll tell you exactly what it is. They know, and it's very strange that they aren't talking about it.
So he says, man, I hope it's us. I hope it's not an enemy. So who do you think it is? Why would drones be over all of these places? Mar-a-Lago, Bedminster, or not Mar-a-Lago yet, I don't think, but Bedminster, all these military and other government facilities in Virginia. Interesting, isn't it? Nobody knows. Trump knows. Nobody knows. Trump's going to be able to tell people the day after the inauguration. But right now, nobody knows, except obviously Trump knows. The governors don't know. The governors have asked the federal government for information that the federal government should freely give state governors on a normal basis, of course, right? The federal government's not going to tell the state governors how to protect their states. That's their job. That's the people's information, isn't it? But we're clearly not in that situation at all. Isn't that sort of strange just on its own? I mean, all of this should strike people as nuts. Trump says, I hope it's us. I hope it's not our enemies. The governors don't know. They asked the government wouldn't tell them. The government has to tell them. The information should be public to everyone because it's the people's government. So multiple layers of dishonesty and obfuscation already just right there. What does it mean that Trump knows what's happening? The governors don't know what's happening, and the illegitimate administration, who wouldn't have access to any kind of important military information in the first place, can't give the information. Are they holding it back? Or do they just not have it? It's possible that they're just holding it back, right? It's possible that agencies are controlled, obviously by someone other than Joe Biden. So that's possible. Maybe they're just going to make Joe Biden look bad because he hasn't given over the information. Weird story, but there's not a whole lot of scenarios where all of that makes sense. I don't know too many beyond devolution, but I suppose someone's probably got a theory about what's going on out there. And by the way, when I say devolution, some people get triggered. Well, you don't know it's exactly that. Well, yes, we say that all the time on the air, and we have been for 3 years. Of course we don't know. Of course we don't know. We don't have inside information. The idea, John has laid out his theory of what he believes is happening behind the scenes. The important part of this is that something is happening behind the scenes. Donald Trump and the military, or some combination, seem to be controlling it. And Donald Trump took the necessary steps while in office to lead us into the devolution scenario. So if it's not that, it's something close to that. It's crazy. Like every 2 or 3 months, some people with like, I don't know, not many ideas, who like to scream on the internet, just start going crazy about how devolution's got to be brought down. Brought down? What are we doing? We're talking about what we think is happening on the internet. Isn't that what everybody's doing? You're not allowed to say that you think something else is happening other than the thing we say is happening. Okay, well, cool. Now you are Nina Jankowicz. I mean, why does anyone take these people seriously? It can't be that thing that's done by the people we decided we don't like, even though we don't know them. Oh, it's so moronic. A Rumble rant from a bit ago makes sense to me too. $10 channel entrance fee. Well, thank you. Not necessary, but thank you. The World Economic Forum says right on their website that COVID was a test of mass restriction acceptance, not exact wording. Yeah. They wanted to, and Klaus Schwab wrote an entire book called COVID-19, The Great Reset. This is what they say they're doing. See it happen in life. Hey, guys, it says right here that this is what they're doing. No, sorry, it's not that. That's scary. It says on CNN it's something else. Speaking of CNN, let's go right to CNN. For real, that's what we're doing. Here we are. The most based guy on the planet, Nicolas Maduro. Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro sworn in for third presidential term as opposition decries coup. Now, we have spent an extraordinary amount of time talking about Venezuela on this show. I do not know that I am right about all of my thoughts. I have never visited Venezuela, although I have known Venezuelans. I know that there are prominent people who seem to be good guys like Eric Prince, who have the thing they're saying about Venezuela. He knows far more about the history of the tension in Guyana than I do. I am suggesting that a macro pattern we see worldwide applies to Venezuela as well. And so, being that that pattern is, to me, more worthy of trusting than anything anyone says, that's where I am. And I think that I have made that case fairly well. I also want to, let's pause on that. And I just want to, I did this on Daily, but I want to do it again just so that people really have a place that they can go look. And this is going to take some time and it's going to take some thinking. The International Crisis Group is a globalist think tank. And I'm going to start at the end of this article just to be absolutely clear that I get the names right, because I want to be able to present this in its best form. I'm not going to spend much time on this because we've spent time on it, considerable time on it, on this show. And then, of course, we did a big chunk of a Devolution Power Hour on this exact same piece. So I'd encourage you to look for those. You can just simply go to the Substack, open up the search feature, type in Venezuela, and they will come right up. Okay. The International Crisis Group Board of Trustees. The chair is Lord Mark Malloch Brown, the guy who is directly related to Dominion. President and CEO, Robert Malley. The Biden Iran scandal. You can look up Robert Malley, Biden, Iran. You'll find it. Alexander Soros, George Soros, Jake Sullivan, Lawrence Summers, William McRaven, Thomas Pickering, Wendy Sherman. This is a veritable rogues gallery of globalists. Alexander Downer. Okay. So these are the people who are on the board of trustees at this think tank that presents this report. The President's Council, BP, that's Beyond Petroleum. Scott Bessent, that's very interesting, but this is from 4 years ago, and who knows what role he was playing. But remember, the fantasy team is just the fantasy team. If they all get injured in week one, you switch the team over. These aren't like people we need to form a long-term emotional relationship with. Okay? Alexander Soros on the President's Council, International Advisory Council. You get like Chevron, HSBC, MetLife, Noble Energy, Shell. These are prominent globalists and transnational corporations. Okay? That is critically important to understanding their mission, because their mission is to subvert and overthrow nations and take their resources. And so they want Venezuela's energy resources, obviously. And that's, of course, why they want Guyana as well. They want the whole thing. And that can't be lost on anybody, okay? The global regime is trying to take this country so that they can extract its resources while impoverishing the nation, unless you are the part of the nation that supports their agenda. That's the program. That's how it works everywhere. You don't need to be a rocket scientist or a geopolitical expert to understand that's what's happening in Venezuela. There's nothing bad you can say about Nicolas Maduro that changes that basic fact. They also don't have real elections. No place has real elections. And in this particular think tank report from the International Crisis Group called Imagining a Resolution of Venezuela's Crisis, they go through a plan. This is like, when you probably print it out, it's probably 15 or 20 pages long, about how to overthrow the Venezuelan government. And this is essentially a pitch to donors. And I always guide people to this first line of the executive summary, where it says, since January 2019, Venezuela has had 2 competing presidencies and 2 starkly different views on how its political struggle should be resolved. 2 competing presidencies. How does that happen? Well, the global regime recognizes one person who clearly is not the president, and then there's a real president. And what did the global regime do for the last 4 years with Joe Biden? They recognized him as president, even though he's not president in any way. And perhaps they let him be the face of the bureaucratic state. And maybe on some level, he was responsible for being, quote unquote, the public leadership of that bureaucratic administration. But he's not even leading that because other people are giving them their commands. Okay. He also was not legitimately elected, not legitimately certified, and not legitimately inaugurated. He's just never been president. It's only this. It's only this. They did it in Venezuela. You can see it right here in a report compiled by elite globalists and transnational corporations. What else is it? I mean, honestly, what else is it? What? I don't know, man. I don't know. So anyhow, the rest of this report is an attempt And I haven't highlighted any of the rest of it because I highlighted my own PDF, and that was probably a mistake. So they talk, oh, look, they're going to provide sanctions relief if the Maduro administration agrees to have early elections, have their people on the election board to review the elections, et cetera, et cetera. The whole thing is an extortion, okay? We are going to destroy your country economically unless you provide us the elections we want that we can claim we won, and then further destabilize your country until you simply relent and they make the people suffer. Look at this, longer term guarantees. What? Constitutional amendments? It's like what they did here right after the Civil War. The regime went to war against the people until there was some relenting that didn't even really happen, and they just overrode it anyway, and then started like using their military to enforce it and have propagandized us about it for 160 years. They want constitutional amendments. They want to force Maduro to pass constitutional amendments and then give them elections that they can steal, or otherwise they will sanction their economy into the abyss. And they have attempted to do that in Venezuela for a very long time. Don't think that's going to last. They also want fair representation. They also want truth commissions. So let us do our progressive agenda and let us have a propaganda effort that has the rubber stamp of the state saying that this is the real truth. Nicolas Maduro really did do all these things. And then it's a negotiation with Nicolas Maduro about what he's willing to allow them to say about him while they leverage that over him and extract more. This is the program everywhere. And, oh, by the way, while we're at it, on the screen right there in this crisis group report, it says devolution of power from Caracas to state and local government, also mandated by the 1999 Constitution, has been reversed in recent years. Well, what do you do with states that are fully infiltrated communist states? And we're going to have to think about that. What do you do with California? And I suggest that we might be seeing part of it. What do you do with fully infiltrated communist states? So, devolution of power. Oh, weird. Can't believe that's a real word that is used when there are talks about shifting governmental power away from the federal government. I mean, Donald Trump says all the time that it's the state governors doing these things. It's what the system provides. Like, there were plenty of times where I thought, well, you know, I don't know that it's definitely devolution. But like, honestly, if you score a 96% on the test, someone mocking you because you got 4 questions wrong makes them the retard, right? Okay, so back to the most trusted name in news. Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro sworn in for 3rd presidential term as opposition decries coup. So we were told by the global regime and all of its media mouthpieces, and of course Elon Musk, that Edmundo Gonzalez Urrutia and Maria Corina Machado had won the election based on exit polls as confirmed by Edison Research, the same company that processes our totally made up election results. And people were like, Machado and Gonzalez won. It shows that Nicolas Maduro is a communist. Look at these. The people are rising in the streets. Yeah, those people were gang members, terrorists, and Antifa, and probably people who are part of ops. So That was totally wrong. And here's the thing. And I, again, believe it's totally wrong, but also it doesn't matter that it was totally wrong. Okay? It really doesn't. Power is power. The game played at a high level does not care about the results of fake elections. And ultimately, if the power struggle comes down to it, they don't even care about the perception of the results of these elections. So there is the most based president in the world getting sworn in again. Nicolas Maduro has been sworn in for a third presidential term in what the country's opposition movement has decried as a coup d'etat, culminating more than 5 months of dispute over last summer's contested election. Breitbart actually called it a sham election. Now, can it be, and this is going to be an important question in the very near future, can you take legitimate power in a coup d'etat? Okay? And we should think about this because there is some chance, at least in the narrative sense, that we are going to hear about an attempt by the fake president, Joe Biden, to hold on to power. I'm not saying it's definite. I'm saying it's possible. If Donald Trump then, with the people and the military on his side, removed them by force, and I don't think that's necessary, and I don't want to go to any of these places, okay? It's just a thought experiment. Will it be perceived as legitimate that Donald Trump does that? That is the most crucial question and has been for 4 years. That's the question that keeps us out of civil war, of being susceptible to civil war, might be a better way to say it. Because civil war is the regime recruiting the supporters of the regime in a given country to together wage war against the patriotic people of that country. That's what civil war is. It's not us deciding to fight our neighbors. Why in the world would we do that? That would be insane. That would be like psychotic behavior. So what you need is a susceptibility to civil war, which is based on collective belief. So would it be perceived as legitimate if things came to that point and Donald Trump had to do it anyway? I would suggest to you that would be perceived as legitimate, but I don't know. And I think that that's ultimately the point we have to reach before, this phase of the op at least ends. The ceremony took place on Friday in a small room of the National Assembly, a marked difference from previous ceremonies held in the building's main hall. How about that? Another preview of Donald Trump's inauguration. Are we going to see the big thing outside at the National Mall? Kind of doubt it. Isn't it amazing that an election 5 months ago is being inaugurated 10 days before, or, 11 days before? No, this is today. 10 days before Trump's. How about that? Who could ever imagine it? Maduro was sworn in by National Assembly leader Jorge Rodriguez, who placed the presidential sash on him. How dainty. Prompting thunderous applause from those in attendance. We've achieved what we knew we would achieve, Maduro said during his first speech after being sworn in. The power given to me was not given by a foreign government, a foreign president, or a gringo government. That's the United States of America he's referring to. Maduro said at the event, which saw Nicaraguan President Daniel Ortega and Cuba's Miguel Diaz-Canel in attendance. No one in this world can impose a president in Venezuela. You're damn straight. So Nicaragua and Cuba, you should just, kind of pencil in as these countries are fully on board. China and Russia also sent representatives, with Russia's State Duma chairman Vyacheslav Volodin seen arriving late on a state media broadcast after the ceremony began ahead of schedule. Now, what they call state media may well be state media, but it's the state media calling it that, okay? All of these organizations are state media. Maduro was proclaimed winner of the country's presidential election on July 28th. by electoral authorities under tight control of the ruling Socialist Party. Ah, they're socialists. No, commie, you're the commies. I know you've figured out ways to define all these words so they don't mean the thing that you are, but that's what they mean in every one of these cases. But Venezuela's opposition has published thousands of voting tallies claiming that their candidate, Edmundo Gonzalez, had actually won the vote with 67% against Maduro's 30%. Wow. You would think if 67% of the people in Venezuela didn't vote for Maduro and instead voted for the old guy and the weird kind of hip and cool lady, they'd be, more interested in all this, doing something about it, but they're not. Okay. It's just the regime. Of course, it's the regime. You can look at the International Crisis Group report and understand, oh, yeah, that's exactly what they're doing here because it's so obvious. It is so unbelievably obvious. And they literally have the Venezuelan Biden and Kamala standing in. Like, people can't get over that it's bullshit. But it's bullshit. I don't know what to say. It's just bullshit. So blah, blah, blah about the election. In a speech Friday afternoon, opposition leader Maria Corina Machado remained defiant, accusing Maduro's government of trampling on Venezuela's constitution. Yes, the constitution that the regime created 25 years ago. Going forward, the pressure will increase even more until Maduro understands that this is over. If the regime took over, let's say power comes back to the people, and after some period of time, the regime seizes back power and writes a new constitution. 25 years after that, while the people are still fighting against this regime takeover, if they take over, do they have to respect the regime's constitution? Of course not. That would be absurd. So blah, blah, blah. He violates the Constitution, and he's flanked by the dictators of Cuba and Nicaragua. How did they become dictators? Did they steal elections? I mean, Joe Biden stole an election. He's done everything in the dictator handbook. Why are these guys the dictators? Well, I guess it's a matter of who's calling them dictators? Same people who put Joe Biden in office. Well, maybe not exactly the same. So new sanctions. And now, this is perfect. Right here. Shortly after the inauguration, the U.S. announced an 18-month extension of temporary protected status for eligible Venezuelan nationals, meaningless, and new rewards for information leading to the arrest of Maduro and his closest officials, including Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello. The rewards for Maduro and for Cabello, now amounting to $25 million each, are the maximum rewards allowed under the State Department's narcotics reward program, an official said. So they're going to be arrested for the U.S. intelligence community's drug trafficking operation that they set up in all these countries, like they did in Afghanistan. Come on now. That is never going to happen. Look at the pictures. Look at the way they're portraying this. Maria Corina Machado, loved by everyone, especially this guy. Let's see. There was one other one. Oh, everybody's so somber. Maria Corina Machado, hero. Everybody else, somber. No one like Maduro. Maduro, communist dictator. Party say socialist, but he communist. It's all so silly. Why does anybody believe anything the TV says anymore? And more importantly, why do they do it for social credit? It's wrong. Okay. So eventually, when the truth comes out, which is not long, because the truth doesn't come out, it just gains broad acceptance. And it's going to gain broad acceptance. So if you're conforming to the moron consensus over on Twitter and you're wrong, why don't you just be right instead? And at some point, the people who are saying the right thing last will be looked at as dumb or complicit. Why? Because they are dumb and complicit. Donald Trump says yesterday on Truth Social, Venezuelan democracy activist Maria Corina Machado and President-elect Gonzalez. So she's just a democracy activist. Did you hear that? Democracy activist. Why didn't he call her the vice president-elect? Is Gonzalez really the president-elect? Well, we just saw Maduro get sworn in. So what Donald Trump is doing is the same thing that he did back in 2019 or 2020 at the State of the Union and declare that Juan Guaido was the president of Venezuela, despite Nicolas Maduro being president of Venezuela. Maduro has said plenty of nice and friendly and funny things about Donald Trump in the meantime, or at least he certainly said one thing that is a case closer on its own. He talked about how they would, he could imagine them being good friends if only Donald Trump had not said nice things about Juan Guaido. So he called Maria Corina Machado the hero here. Where is Gonzalez? He's not in these pictures. Isn't that strange? She is a democracy activist. What is a democracy activist? Well, she's just a communist like Alexei Navalny or any of these ridiculous stooges that they put up in front of people. Doesn't matter at all. Democracy activists. They're peacefully expressing the voices and will of the Venezuelan people, with hundreds of thousands of people demonstrating against the regime. The great Venezuelan American community in the United States overwhelmingly supports a free Venezuela, or support a free Venezuela, and strongly supported me. These freedom fighters should not be harmed and must be safe and alive. So Donald Trump's hands are 100% clean still when it comes to Nicolas Maduro, and Nicolas Maduro does not need his help. So not needing Trump's help, why would Trump bother helping him, right? Does Trump need to declare Maduro's legitimacy? Of course he does not. This country is not Venezuela. It doesn't matter what the American people believe about the leadership of Venezuela unless you're a neocon and want to overthrow Venezuela because the television told you mean things about Nicolas Maduro. And as my pal Gordon, Ghost of Base Patrick Henry, said in the chat on Badlands Daily today, they didn't always talk about Maduro that way. There are so many examples of the people right now perceived to be part of this, potential sovereign alliance who were formerly people who were friendly to the regime and very much of the regime in their bio, their backstory. And so they know all the tricks of the trade from a relatively high position inside, and now they're on the other side, applying all those tricks, using them against the enemy. And, a lot of the stuff I talk about is directly informed by all my experience in elite Hollywood entertainment society. Okay, so Maduro, there is a warrant out for his arrest. That is quite obviously, never, ever, ever going to happen. It is so utterly ridiculous, but great for optics. How low can they go? They can't even try to sanction and coerce him into giving up his spot anymore. They can only hope that someone is able to arrest him. By the way, it occurs to me, I'm just scrolling to grab another Elon post, and I just saw another one. He mentioned yesterday that Starlink would be available in Los Angeles if the cellular service on networks besides T-Mobile breaks down. So T-Mobile for a couple of years has had the potential for direct Starlink to mobile access. In fact, that's why I switched over to T-Mobile a few years ago. But now he's saying that is 100% here. Okay. And now everybody's like, okay, well, he's doing that to help the citizens of Los Angeles. No. The system can be turned on at any time. And then at that point, it is very, very difficult for the people in control of the other information and communications infrastructure to be able to simply turn the lights off and have it be effective. It just isn't going to work anymore. Okay. Because now there's this parallel thing. And so that's what that's about. And I think that that is absolutely crucial. And hopefully that never comes into necessity, let's say, but it's not zero possibility, of course. Oh, man. Elon Musk also had a post yesterday, and I'm not seeming to be able to find it. Elon had a post yesterday about Maria Corina Machado, and he is doing the same thing that he was doing months ago when the election happened. He was saying Machado is the real winner. These exit polls prove it. And so now he is totally free and clear, hands off, not supporting Maduro. That is a big deal. They have total narrative cover on Nicolas Maduro and whatever relationship they might have there behind the scenes. And I think that that is very important as we go forward, because at some point, the peacemakers have to be able to optically make peace. And the people need to understand what the basis of that peace is. You can't just, Donald Trump couldn't go over to Russia in 2017 and pal around with Putin, make a bunch of deals that the neocons would describe as threatening our national security or proving that Donald Trump is a Russian puppet or the rest of it. He couldn't do those things back then. And which is not to say he couldn't meet with him. There were times where they had meetings. So I'm not saying that this is some revelation that he is going to be meeting with him. But in terms of actually making peace and people understanding that Russia is not our enemy, the global regime is our enemy, you have to be able to provide a basis for that peace that the public has already understood. Not that they can understand, although that'll be how it is to a lot of people, but there has to be a big chunk of the public who has already understood that. Again, it's part of the same discussion about if the Biden administration were to try to hold on to their illegitimate power. Like, would the people be behind Donald Trump in taking action to secure his power? I think the answer is yes. I think the people would also quickly understand, or at least, in a reasonable amount of time, that Russia is not our enemy. That is very important. And so I'm just pulling up the Badlands Media link. Trump and Putin meeting in talks as both leaders aim to address Russia-Ukraine war. Okay. So he's announced that preparations are underway for a meeting with the Russian president, Vladimir Putin. Speaking at a gathering of Republican governors at his Mar-a-Lago club, Trump confirmed Putin wants to meet and we're setting it up. The meeting, Trump stated, would occur after his inauguration, January 20th. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov stated that President Putin has repeatedly expressed his willingness to engage in talks with international leaders, including President Trump. No conditions are required for this, only a mutual desire and political will to conduct a dialogue and resolve the existing problems through dialogue The political will to conduct a dialogue and resolve existing problems through dialogue is required. There we go. We see that Mr. Trump also declares his readiness to resolve problems through dialogue. We welcome this. Great. So, will Donald Trump end the Russia-Ukraine war the day he's back in office? Probably. I think that if there was ever a war since 2022, and by the way, if you understand that a war can be resolved in a day, or if you believe that, come on. And so if it can't be resolved in a day, and there's an indication that it is fully immediately resolved in a day, what does that mean about this past time that we have gone through? What could we have known earlier? What signals could we have paid attention to? When could we have totally checked out of the soap opera that is the Ukraine war? Probably a long time ago. And hey, man, again, if that's your thing and you are really invested and interested in that, all good, go for it. But like the central and primary things have to be central and primary. We have to understand what kind of society we live in, what threats still exist, and how we are going to respond to those threats. We don't need to know all the details about a propaganda war. We need to get to the base layer, and none of the day-to-day on what happens in Ukraine is at the base layer. Some of it's signal, some of it, but it's not at the base layer, which is why we don't spend a lot of time on it. It does not illuminate the base layer very generally, certainly not at this point. Okay, so let's talk about the LA fires. And let me just remember. Damn. You know what? I meant to do this clip to start off the show because it's so hilarious. And so while we are switching between subjects, we are going to take a hilarity break and see number 7 himself rocking and rolling as only one of the John Fettermen can.
Hey, Senator. Can we ask you what you hope to get out of your visit to Mar-a-Lago to talk to Donald Trump?
What are we talking about here? Is there some news?
There's some news. We hear that you're going to be heading down to Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yes, I've heard that. Yeah.
What will you be discussing with the president?
Well, yeah, I demand that I need to be made Pope of Greenland.
Do you have the resume to be Pope?
I'm having a conversation like he's the president, is going to be. So, you know, I am not the senator for just Democrats in Pennsylvania. I'm everyone's senator in Pennsylvania. And so it's just having a conversation with
all right, well.
I'm going to vote on the Lakin bill, and I was a co-sponsor of that.
So he's voting on a bill on the Lakin Riley op, I think is what he said there at the end. He's hilarious. John Fetterman is hilarious. Love it. Okay. So let's go to the fires. And I think that I have, in this episode, provided plenty of preface for the thought process that I think is required here. Now, obviously, I'm not trying to be any bit insensitive to anyone who has lost their home. I don't know any of those people, okay? I don't know anybody who knows those people, although some strangers online have told me that they know those people, and I'm happy to believe them. Now, I don't know who those people they know are, and at some point in this conversation, we might find out where that becomes relevant. I think it is a terrible and probably emotionally jarring and traumatic experience to see places that are part of your day-to-day life burned to the ground. Okay? It's upsetting. I remember when I was living in Austin, there was a bar that I used to go play pool, where I used to go play pool and have a drink with a good friend of mine. And at some point during my time there, the bar burned to the ground. And, you know, it's not like a favorite spot. We went there like a handful of times. But whatever memories a person who went there a lot had, gone. It's just over. So if a big chunk of my neighborhood that I drive around every day and think, oh, that's lovely, look at that Lululemon, or hey, these palm trees are just my favorite. I understand why that's upsetting. All right. And I'm not trying to be insensitive about that stuff. That stuff immediately reduces the quality of your life. And that is very unfortunate because obviously this stuff is all intentional. Now, we don't know who's intended it or what we'll find out about that, but it's obviously intentional, and that can be very upsetting. Okay. I know also that people are being psychologically tortured by their government. This is an intentionally inflicted mass trauma event. Okay. And it is primarily a psychological event. So blanket coverage on the TV, all of it, a frenzy, hysterical. Constant, everybody, there's all these maps that people get to go look at. It's like, oh, it's red covered for 60 miles and 60 miles across and 30 miles north to south. Oh, Southern California is an inferno. No, it's not. It just isn't. Okay. It's just not. It's not. A friend of mine who I've known for 5 years was driving along the 5 freeway south toward Los Angeles through Burbank, the 5 and the 170. Anybody familiar with Los Angeles knows exactly where that is. And she did the panoramic view, sent video. There's smoke in the sky. There's fire. Not denying it. But she drove right back into Hollywood. Hollywood's just fine. Showed some more images. People were talking about Runyon Canyon, a landmark in Los Angeles, a major tourist spot, a place where a lot of people go work out. They kind of get nature in a zoo like they do at Central Park in New York, that kind of thing. Part of it is burned, no doubt. I don't know what did it, but part of it's burned. So, you know, I know the thing's happening. I'm not denying the thing's happening. I want to understand the thing, understand why this mass psychological trauma event is being inflicted. It's being intentionally inflicted. They're trying to say now that it's looters and petty arsonists, or maybe organized arsonists, or it's the homeless, illegal migrants, for sure. We're definitely going to hear about how the illegals are doing this because we already got through the DEI phase, and the Daily Weimar doesn't have any other subjects that they are able to cover. It's just those. And so that's the blame spot now, because even liberals in Los Angeles, who I have talked to, understand that it's intentional. People who voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris understand that it's intentional. So they're being given an option. Hey, I see you understand that this fire's intentional, even though it's everywhere. Will you accept the homeless? How about migrants? I see you like that one. What about petty organized arsonists? Because there's no way to explain this with the homeless. Looters? It could be Antifa. Oh, Antifa. We got to get Antifa. The domestic terrorist organization that Trump declared in 2020. Have they done anything since then? Well, there's been some videos here and there. We had the very, very real campus protests about Israel and Gaza. Those were so real. So yeah, I guess they did things there. Where was our summer of love after the abortion decision? Okay. So these things would not and cannot explain the phenomenon they are trying to explain. Doesn't matter if arsonists can burn things down. I know arsonists exist. I know looters exist. I know people can organize. I know all of the ways to normie-splain the situation, but it can't be those, no matter how much you normie-splain them and convince yourself that there's at least some chance. And because there's some chance that the normie explanation might be right, we have to cling to that with all our lives until we accept, hey, guy, it's not that. Okay? Because at some point we're going to realize, hey, guy, it's not that. And this occurred to me today during Daily. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn because I know that a lot of you guys out there are having the exact same feeling in your personal lives. You might not have podcasts, but you're having the exact same feeling. Donald Trump declares that case fake. There never was a case. Okay? Could have known it a long time ago. This thing right now is one of those things that you can probably see most of the way through right now. And again, I'm not saying I'm special. There are some people who see through these things way better than I do. And I know, because I spend all my time doing this, that I can see through these things better than a lot of other people can. And however right or wrong in a given situation I am, I mean, hey, fog of war, man. Nobody's going to be right all the time. Okay? But if you can see most of the way through something, and I was talking about this in the True Social post before, why would you limit yourself to the options the TV has presented you? Because what they want you to do is focus on one of their options so you don't look for other options. And that's what normie-splaining does. It corrals people into the normie explanation. Hey, guys, believe it's the migrant. We got to look into this migrant. We got to figure out who this migrant's cousins, sisters, bosses, prom date was. What? Oh, we're going to find out. Oh, that migrant is part of Twin Diagua. Oh, wow. So it's just more of a problem we already knew about. Gosh, man, thank goodness we nailed this one down and can go back to the Cybertruck bomber. Once you have understood clearly, and it should be clearly understood, that those explanations are totally insufficient for what is happening, then you move on to a world of uncertainty where you can actually gain ground on an informational timeline, right? If you accept that the problem is really illegals, darn it, it's the illegals who went around and organized all the arsons, and it only got this bad because woke DEI, Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom did the thing with the water. Ugh. Why though? Right? So, horrific problem. Los Angeles has been turned into a war zone, and I mean that in a literal way. And the cause is DEI and immigrants. And I'm not defending DEI or immigrants, but isn't it weird that they're the explanation for everything? Everything? Isn't that a little weird? Like, if it's a little weird, then when you hear the same people over and over and over and over and over and over and over attributing big problems with genuine scandals attached to them and genuine corruption and genuine regime interference, if you take that and then believe these guys, or if they take that and then turn it into the problem is DEI or the problem is wokeness, they're lying to you on purpose on behalf of the regime. Now, are they doing it wittingly, and are they paid operators on behalf of the regime? How do I know? I don't know. But it benefits the regime. They're not waking up the normies about immigrants and DEI. They're just gatekeeping and making sure people don't explore other possibilities. And of course, there are other possibilities. And among those possibilities, somewhere will hopefully be the truth, but it's certainly not in one of the optional explanations we're being given by the television. And I don't know what could be more obvious than that. And again, this is one of those things. And I hate to harp on these things, man, because I don't want to I don't want to talk down on people who are doing their best and whatever. Okay. But man, we don't have to be stuck here forever. We really don't. I said this, I don't know if on the show or on Daily or something last week, or maybe on DPH, but solving the ops doesn't get the ops to end. Okay. Because that just means that every week or 2 weeks on television, they're going to play a new mystery movie. And you'll just be watching mystery movies forever, trying to solve the mystery movie, but it's fake and there's no solution. There's no bottom. Okay. Understanding that they're ops so that people understand their ops and they can observe the narrative as an op rather than observing it as a reality allows them to bypass the process of getting bogged down in the details. Okay. And I know that this is shit people don't want to do, but you can fast forward a lot of this stuff and catch up all the while. Checking the chat briefly. Jay Gonzalez, 1123, $10. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Yes, they may see, but they can't articulate and bring people with them the way you do. Thank you. I'm the one who clipped out Monday's show and posted it on Truth. You're one of the best. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I really do appreciate your kind words and your support. And I'll just say, Bay Theater Dave clipped a great clip this week. Jay Gonzalez clipped a great clip this week. There are people who say that the audience of the show should be bigger. One of the best ways in the world to do that is by using your screen record option on your phone and capturing a piece of that video and then sending it out. And if you don't have a big social media audience and you think that it's not worth it because of that, if you tag me in it and it's a good clip that I think is well presented, I got to put that caveat in there, I'm going to repost you. Okay. Because you're doing something that helps me a great deal that I don't have time for. All right. So if you want to contribute to the show without making a financial contribution or anything, all you got to do is use that screen record feature, clip the piece you want to clip. Maybe Bay Theater Dave has a better recommendation to get a really long clip, but that'll do it. And if you just hit me with it, then I put it out to my audience, and then you are reaching my audience. Okay. And so that's how Steve Bannon calls it, being a force multiplier. And that's exactly what it is. Let me pull this up. Take a little drink of water here. The 1906 San Francisco fire, this I believe is from Perplexity or Chat GPT, it looks like. Or perhaps it's Grok, I don't know. But NAI. The 1906 San Francisco fire significantly influenced the city's rebuilding efforts. While the disaster devastated over 80% of the city, it also spurred rapid reconstruction driven by business leaders eager to restore San Francisco's status as a key economic hub. How about that? Driven by business leaders. Who was the fire driven by? This urgency led to compromises, such as allowing single-story wooden structures without permits, which prioritized speed over safety. Interesting. The fire reshaped urban development with denser housing introduced in raised areas compared to untouched ones, leaving a lasting impact on land use patterns. Isn't that incredible? So they took areas of this enormously valuable real estate and they made them denser. Now, the Pacific Palisades are one of the most valuable real estate neighborhoods in the Los Angeles area. And, you know, Altadena, Pasadena, that whole area, Pasadena, parts of Pasadena are very wealthy. And then there are areas north of Pasadena that are significantly wealthy. And the population density there is absolutely nothing close to not only downtown Los Angeles or Hollywood, but Santa Monica and Century City and Studio City and Sherman Oaks and all these kind of little sub-cities all around. There's much bigger lots for housing there. And there are still some in Los Angeles City proper. But they've just created an opportunity to eliminate multiple, particularly in the Palisades, where there are homes that are like $60 million. It says, however, rushed construction and corruption undermine structural integrity, leaving the city vulnerable to future disasters. And isn't that convenient? So they've left themselves the opportunity to burn the whole thing down again if they ever need to. And it was just based on, well, we had to hurry. Whoopsie. Regime program. People got to understand, you can't build back better if you don't destroy everything first. And people don't imagine that other people would actually have the heart or the wherewithal or the follow through or the resources or the access or whatever to actually do terribly evil things like this. But they do. They totally do. They absolutely do. And you saw it in every doctor and nurse that tried to convince you to take the COVID vaccine, right? Some little glimmer of it, at least. There are a lot of people out there who are trying to profit greatly on COVID tests and COVID vaccines, all sorts of fraud, knew they could get money from the government. Is that a good business idea or is that pure evil? I would suggest it's pure evil. So the idea that someone could not do that at massive scale, well, that's not even a tenable idea. Only a person who is committed to lying to themselves constantly would ever believe something like that. So they're entirely capable of doing it. They have the capability of doing it. They have the ability to frame the narrative around what they're doing, cover it up, then benefit and then exploit it to their benefit. And we're going to be like, well, you know, it's irresponsible to say that it's not petty arsonists. Those people, as far as I'm concerned, are hostile actors. Okay? I don't know what else you can say about that. I really don't. There's no normie-splaining that should be acceptable. No amount. No normie-splaining, no gatekeeping. And anybody doing it should be swiftly punished. Hey, why are you gatekeeping? And I don't mean in any other way than that. Just drop in the replies. Hey, why are you gatekeeping? And of course, then they'll get triggered. And if you say, I'm not trying to trigger you. I'm just asking why you're gatekeeping because that's what you're doing. Then you'll probably get blocked because the only answer they have is, well, they're trying to make people look stupid. No, gatekeepers are trying to make people look stupid. That's the ultimate outcome of gatekeeping. You prevent people from knowing things that might be right, therefore making sure that they're stupid. Gosh, man. I don't know why that's acceptable in the truth community. I really don't. So let's move forward. This I thought was absolutely phenomenal. And this is one of those things. I know people can be very, very upset. This is one of those things that when you see it, you should immediately pull back from the story in its entirety. Okay? In its entirety. Did things burn? I'm pretty convinced they burned. After that, it's all on the table. It's all on the table. Last night, people in Los Angeles got an EBS alert to their phones that said LA County was a forced evacuation. LA County evacuating all at one time is an absolutely nightmarish dystopian possibility. That is a catastrophe film waiting to happen. All right? There is insane traffic in Los Angeles right now. Maybe it's okay right now. It's probably really bad on the 405 right now. And obviously, not as many people are driving today. But LA has terrible traffic all the time. If everyone at once headed for the exits, like in a concert venue, you would talk about the fire capacity for that reason. This is like that. It would be a disaster. I would be surprised if within a few hours, people didn't start getting out of their cars and shooting each other. Because, first of all, people will believe absolutely anything. They'll think they're about to die. And they'll get immediately angry because of how scared they are. And so not long after that, many of those people got another message to tell them that, oh, no, sorry, it was only one county. This is Nick Sortor on X, who is, by the way, clearly an InfoOp approved operator. WTF, brah, with a siren. Hey, siren, it's breaking news. Just admitted they've lost control. LA County just admitted they've lost control of their emergency alert system. You can even hear one going off in the room as the emergency management director speaks. Millions of people are getting erroneous alerts telling them to evacuate, even if they're 10 miles plus from any fire or evacuation zone. These people are wildly incompetent. Or this is an intentional making sure that wolf is cried so many times that people do not listen to the EBS. Could it be that? Could it be that they don't actually control the EBS because it says they've lost control? Maybe they just, maybe somebody else just has it for a little while. Let's watch this video.
Well, in coordination with our federal and state partners, how we can stop the messages that are going out right now that are not being initiated by a human action, to stop that, and then understand how that occurred so that the tool can still be used for what was identified as like a critical fire weather that we're still in experiencing and will continue to experience.
So there's a word there at the end that he said, fire weather. There's no such thing as fire weather. Fire is not caused by weather. This is the winter. It rains in LA in the winter. It's insane what these people say. You should see clearly that he's about like the Pete Buttigieg of public officials. He has no idea what he's talking about. They have no control over their system. And he talks about, we have to make sure the system is available for its intended purpose. Well, generally, they don't use it for its intended purpose. They use it for all sorts of purposes. They want to warn you that it's going to be very hot this weekend. So people need to turn off their air conditioners, set the temperature to 76 so that there will be enough electricity for everybody. They use it for shit like that. And yeah, people are asking, who was that next to him? Yeah, I think that was the actor Eric Andre, who shows his penis on the internet. So all of this is very, very serious. And the problem, again, with the information gatekeepers and whatnot, is that rather than examining this as a public communications op, which it just fundamentally is, they accept the information and then work from there. Oh, they don't have control of the EBS. Well, if that's the case, should you or should you not evacuate when the illegitimate government sends you a warning from an illegitimate government agency telling you that you must comply with the illegitimate government and then move your person and your property to another place while they burn the city down. It's amazing what people think is normal and what I used to think is normal. Again, I'm not trying to separate myself, okay? But it is inverted. All of it is inverted. And once you recognize the inversion, you can begin to unwind that inversion, but it is inverted. It is crazy that anyone would ever comply with this stuff, but I know we do. And the extent to which people comply is the extent to which this little message that they don't even control changed people's belief and therefore changed their behavior. All right. The EBS send and cancel thing is so crazy. And I hope that this is having that effect on those people, because there are people I still really care a great deal about there. And I want them to be safe, but I also want psychological torture to stop being inflicted upon them, right? And part of that is their responsibility by ceasing their compliance with the government. So one of the big stories today is that Mel Gibson went on Joe Rogan. Mark Zuckerberg went on today. Mel went on yesterday. And the story is that while Mel Gibson sat in Joe Rogan's studio, his house burnt down. Is that real? Well, who's to say? Let's see what Mel. By the way, you know what? I've got this video, so I might as well show it to you. The video on the 5 and the 170, just so everybody can see. And I was being sent this stuff in real time. In fact, it was being sent to my chat by a person, again, who I do know. So let me just see if I can do one thing real quick. All right. Hold for processing. Perfect. There we are. Let's look at this video. I did it again. So this is heading south on the 5, passing Burbank. You know, looks like smoke in the sky. I've seen smog lines like that before when there was no fire, but that right there is significant. So there should be one fire off to the southeast, which is the right from this, the like 3 o'clock. No, sorry. The maybe 1 or 2 o'clock from this direction. That would be Palisades. And then the Pasadena Altadena incident is like directly to the left. And again, this is from today, not the past days, but there it is. So the entire city certainly is not a blazing inferno. There's no way to deny that, I think. Is there? And they're not. But look here. Oh, this is another perfect picture. She showed me where she's driving on one of the fire maps. Here is said fire map. Let's see how accurate the machine is compared to the reality. She said she was, so you'll see, let me see if I can blow this up a little bit. So apparently this is the Hearst fire. You can see the entire screen engulfed in red, right? It's got a pink hue so that you know fire's happening. Then it's got a nice icon right there to show big fire right at the the dead center of it. And so if you see that blue dot on the map right there, showing the location on the freeway, this was from before, this was prior to the video I just showed you. So this is further north, okay? Maybe 10 miles further north. And she was sending video of this too. Nothing really, some smoke. And again, I'm not trying to diminish anybody's experience. If you're having a direct experience, it's absolutely awful and traumatic, okay? But we also have to talk about this is what's being communicated to the public, and it's clearly not representative of the situation on the ground. And that is all I can concern myself with, all right? We see very natural disasters all the time. And people don't realize they're very natural disasters because everybody's making sure that everyone's emotions are protected, and then normie splitting and gatekeeping. That is the reason why no one knows anything, ever, okay? Eventually, we're going to have to limit ourselves because we can understand that we can't know these things, ultimately. But if you want everybody to advance like a rocket ship, stop lying, stop gatekeeping, stop manipulating the conversation, stop normie splitting. All right? Like the belief that you have accepted does not need to be accepted by others. You can tell them that belief, explain it to them. If they're interested, then they will listen to you. If they're not interested, then they won't. And that's okay. I don't expect people who aren't interested in what I'm saying to watch my podcast, right? Like people choose to. And because people choose to, I'm going to say the thing I think. It's pretty simple. Okay. Might as well also pull this up. How about this strange layer of this op? Los Angeles Times today. State to probe why Pacific Palisades Reservoir was offline, empty when firestorm exploded. A large reservoir in the Pacific Palisades that is part of the Los Angeles water supply system, was out of use when a ferocious wildfire, it's not a wildfire, destroyed thousands of homes. I mean, I guess it's a wildfire to the extent that it is capturing other, it is moving. I guess that's moving wild. Is that a wildfire? I always think about it in like actual vegetation and burning vegetation, not burning people's houses in a precision fashion. But hey, that's what the conspiracy theorists think, just because that's the reality. It's weird when the conspiracy theorists think something that maps perfectly onto the reality, but normies and gatekeepers are certain that that reality can't be. So instead they lie about the reality and then say they're the responsible truth tellers. Losing my mind. I don't want to get stuck in a groove on this, but people should at some point start being angry about that behavior rather than praising it. Oh, you're so responsible. I'm responsible too. That makes both of us responsible. We believe the same thing. I can trust you because you're responsible. And now it's responsible when I tell other people to be responsible. It is a chain effect always. Officials said that the Santa Ynez Reservoir had been closed for repairs to its cover, leaving a 117 million gallon water storage complex empty in the heart of the Palisades. Okay. So I guess it's just DEI that did that. The revelation comes among growing questions about why firefighters ran out of water while battling the blaze. Did they? Or is that what we were told? Do we have any direct knowledge? No, of course not. That's what was said. That's what everyone has put out there to slam Democrats and nail them on the DEI. That's the reason for that op. I mean, it could be a good op, but that's the reason. There are people who claim that water has not run out. We have this picture, which is meaningless. This also says right below it, the Santa Ynez Reservoir as seen from above in September 2022. 2022, but why? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? I wonder what it looks like now. Can we know from this picture and this headline what it looks like right now? No. The answer is only no. It's not anything else other than no. This is a picture from 2022. This is a headline that they could have easily made up. The Times reported early Wednesday that numerous fire hydrants in higher elevation streets of the Palisades went dry, leaving firefighters struggling with low water pressure as they combated the flames. Governor Newsom on Friday ordered an independent investigation of the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power over the loss of water pressure and empty Santa Ynez Reservoir, calling it deeply troubling. So this is an investigation of the Department of Water and Power, the DWP. Okay. Keep that in the back of your mind for the next half hour. We need answers as to how that happened, Newsom said in a letter, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So there's extra blah, blah, blah to follow. There might even be interesting blah, blah, blah in there, but we're not going to go through it. Okay. So to the water. I think I want to head to the water now. Is that it? Do everything. We head to the water. We are going to, oh no, one more thing before we head to the water. I actually should have done this before the reservoir. So on New Year's Eve, the television ran an op to make Whitney Cummings one of our new authoritative sources. They put her on CNN with Anderson Cooper and Andy, whatever his name is, and had her tell some very mildly based in red pill jokes. Ooh, she sort of slammed the vaccine. She's her new best friend. Whitney Cummings 5 years ago was torturing people about Me Too, doing the whole woke feminist thing all the time, going after professionals, normal people, whatever it was. Was she an information operator then? Is she an information operator now? I would suggest both. Why? Probably because she's compromised, or she just likes the treats and doesn't care and actually thinks that she's really just living life great. Okay. So
this is a real text that I just received from a friend of mine about the fires. I'm not going to cry because I got torn apart for my last TikTok video where I cried about my house maybe burning down. I'll spare you.
So her house hasn't burned down, but her house might burn down. So rather than appearing with her hair done and makeup on and the way she presents herself the rest of the time, or often enough at least, she wants you to know here that she's been crying for days because her house might burn down.
She's on a plane and I said, do you want me to go to your house and get stuff out? Like things that you can't replace. I'll go right now, even though the area is evacuated. She wrote back, you can't get in. Topanga's barricaded. The back way we use is being guarded by fire trucks now because some of the neighbors caught a guy setting more fires on the back of our hill. They chased him away. They called 911. I think they caught the guy recently in Woodland Hills trying to put gasoline in sewers. It's happening all over. Okay, happy to talk about climate change. I'm not a scientist, so I don't understand enough about it to weigh in. I think this is also a mental illness crisis. And what do you say? Oft? What do you say? Unalived? When someone unalives someone, I'm the first person to go, I'd like to hear their side of the story. I'm sure they should be in jail, but I just want to hear their side of the story. Arsonists. I don't need to hear your side of the story. Your story sucks.
I mean, that's a retarded person. Okay. You're telling me that person is awakened? What is that? That is an info op being run by a prominent person to convince the public that it's arsonists. Okay. And maybe she's dumb or maybe she's complicit, but it can only be one or the other. And everybody wanted her to be their new best friend just 9 days ago. Oh, look at how funny this Whitney Cummings joke is. Those weren't funny jokes. Those jokes have been around for years. Years. Many of us have said much funnier things about all those subjects on Twitter and or off Twitter because we were banned from Twitter. Clown show. It's an absolute clown show. Michelle the Bean's $20 Rumble rant says the term fire retardant may be what we need to call anyone who gets sucked into the fake and gay parts of this obvious op. Chris, I don't know what I would do without your sharp mind and courage. Well, thank you very much for that compliment. As for fire retardant, I have now determined the name of today's episode. Fire retardant. That is perfecto. Normally I have to sit there pondering. What do I call it? What do I call it? What do I call it? Polymath Anon says, ever notice that the whole hashtag Me Too movement or op for people our age would literally read as pound me too, just saying. Yes, I used to say that, and I used to say that online in Hollywood, and people used to get triggered, which was what made it so fun, to be honest. Okay, so also, hold on. One last thing before we get to the water, because this one is two last things. Darn, man, there's so much. So much. Okay. I'm going to do this one. LA Times from yesterday. National Guard arrives in LA. Curfews planned to crack down on looting in fire-ravaged areas. Oh, you know what? I actually have an even better link. Let's just go to some video for this. They need curfews because of looting. Right? We saw it in 2020. Why would we believe you now?
What I want to go to next, and we started talking about this last night, is a curfew. A curfew order has been established for the Palisades and Eaton fire areas in all mandatory evacuation zones. That will be in effect. It was in effect last night, and it's going to be in effect tonight at 6 p.m. So it ended at 6 a.m. this morning, will take effect again until 6 p.m. I'm emphasizing that to our media partners because part of this is communicating to the public. You cannot be in these affected areas. If you are subject to arrest. What I want to go to next.
So he just declared that they're allowed to what? Come into your home and arrest you if you choose not to obey the government's command that you have to leave your home. You're not allowed to stay at your home and attempt to protect your home if you want. Well, that's madness. Also, 6 p.m., you can no longer go outside. Once it gets dark, that's when the looters come out. I mean, perhaps if the looter thing is real, I have no reason to believe it's real. There have been some videos. Some of the videos seem like they're being done by influencers. You know, like when shit's too professional and they're like being all influency in the video, immediately extreme skepticism. Extreme skepticism. Like that's almost definitely not true kind of skepticism. Right? I would never believe what they're trying to tell me to believe on the basis they have presented. That's all you need to say. And that is an exercise that should be normal in people's lives, right? Do you believe everything everyone around you says? No way. People don't even believe everything their family members say. But as soon as it becomes from the authoritative source, it's just true. Well, the machine showed me some very real people outside, and they showed a guy driving by on a bike. That guy was in a hoodie. Gosh, I got to think that's probably a looter. And if the person on video says, this has been happening all afternoon, there's hundreds of them. Well, then you're like, okay, well, just showed me one example of one. And of course, that's what a normal person would do too. But what in that is worthy of belief? The machine has showed you a video of a guy in a hoodie riding around on a bike and an influencer telling you what to think about it. That's all that's happened. Nothing else has happened. Okay, so let's go to our boy Blue for a moment and our boy New for a moment. Our boy Blue and our boy New. And you know who I'm talking about, don't you? Say it ain't so. I can't say it ain't so because it is so. Or it might be so. And either way, it's funny. And I don't think anybody actually believes that I'm 100% certain about this or telling you to believe it. I'm not. I'm just presenting a different way to think about things. Where is my absolutely awesome Gavin Newsom content? I've rugged myself again. Newsom. Let me see. I think I got it. I think I got it. I think I can. I think I can. I can. I did. Here we go. Let me present our boy New and our boy Blue in a collab. This is a new mixtape from our boy Blue and our boy New.
Ask you, we've got to deal with this misinformation. There were hurricane force winds of mis and disinformation, lies. People want to divide this country, and we're going to have to address that as well. And it breaks my heart as people are suffering and struggling that we're up against those hurricane forces as well. And that's just a point of personal privilege that I share that with you because it infects real people that are out there.
Wow.
People I meet every single day. People, the mayors.
Hold on, I got to pause this so I don't forget. And so that it's very fresh in your mind. Throughout this video, he has called mis and disinformation a hurricane force winds, and an infection. Okay? Very natural disaster, pandemic. Do you think that they want to declare a national or state emergency over disinformation? Can you imagine that happening? I can. That's like they're just declaring, and probably a narrative thing done by our side, which will be ultimately hilarious. They're going to declare a national emergency on the people's communication. That's what I see. You can see whatever you like. He's called it a hurricane twice and an infection once.
Been meeting with, and they're having conversations that are not the typical conversations you'd have at this time, and you wonder where this stuff comes from, and it's very damaging as well. But we're here to get the job done.
We are here to get the job done. If you say so, you are our boy New. And so that seems to be a narrative operation, obviously, to promote censorship of what they deem to be mis and malinformation. They don't want mis and disinformation happening about their very natural disaster, the climate change caused fires in Los Angeles. They don't want anybody getting the wrong message about what's happening there. But then, also they in particular are sending out false emergency broadcast system messages, and they are putting up fire maps like this. Who's misinforming the public about the Los Angeles fires? Me or the authoritative source? I would suggest it's the authoritative source, and people have accepted that they are allowed to do it because they have always done it, and it is their job to tell us what to do. People are such grovelers that they believe it's the government's job to tell us what to do. It's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. And by the way, if cities are too densely packed to be able to escape an actual problem, is there something wrong with that? Should people be more concerned about that? Maybe not. I mean, I've lived in these cities. I love Los Angeles. I am very sad about Los Angeles. Like, the fact that Los Angeles is what Los Angeles is was a devastating realization to me, because I expected to spend the rest of my life there with very good friends. Like, I had my birthday party in the middle of November of 2019, and there were 400 people there, and it was spectacular. I thought I was going to be friends with these people for the rest of my life, right? And then 4 months later, whoo. So I love that place. I love it. The landscape is unimaginably awesome. The weather is perfect. Everything in the superficial part of reality is like a 10. And everything in the part of reality that is not superficial is barreling at breakneck speed towards zero. And that's the problem. Ultimately, you can't live in a place like this, especially one so poorly managed and so ultimately dangerous. And this is a level of danger that is far beyond the average level of danger in Los Angeles, which is legitimately always there. Like, the freeways are insane. The homeless are insane. The crime is insane, all of that. So, but it's not like I want bad things to happen to Los Angeles. If Los Angeles had the potential, like if they cleaned things out and wanted people to rebuild, I would sign up in 2 seconds. That's how much I love that place and how much I hope there's a future there. But man, this ain't it. So I'm going to try to run through this quickly. It deserves more time. And this is what I would do. I would encourage you guys to spend some of your time, if this is a subject that interests you, in going through a segment of my info stream on Telegram from the afternoon yesterday, midday yesterday, as I was going through this. Okay. So there is a post that says, whoa, get in here, around 1 p.m. Eastern. T.me/very reasonable on Telegram. Scroll back to 1 p.m. Eastern yesterday in that feed, and you will find an article from Influence Watch with my caption, whoa, get in here. Okay. So let's look at this quickly. We're going to talk about the water. This is the Resnick Foundation. A lot of people are totally onto this online. Someone brought it to my attention, so I don't take credit for unearthing this or anything of the sort. But, you know, I follow it in my way, and other people follow it in their ways. And Influence Watch is a revelation of a site. It's wonderful. I've been using it for years. You would know that if you listen to the show. Okay, so I went through this extensively yesterday, so it's all highlighted. The foundation is funded by billionaire couple Stuart and Linda Resnick. This is the Resnick Foundation, longtime Democrat donors who, through their holding company, The Wonderful Company, are the largest growers of pistachios and almonds and wealthiest farmers in the United States. Wow. So, agricultural kingpins of California. Right? Captains of industry in California and in the country. The couple currently owns and operates brands including Palm Wonderful, Fiji Water, Wonderful Pistachios, Wonderful Almonds, among several others. The couple has drawn criticism from left-leaning environmental groups over their control of billions of gallons of water reserves in drought-prone Southern California, as well as the prolific harvesting of a Fijian aquifer for its Fiji Water brand. The couple gives to left-leaning organizations through the foundation, etc., Liberty Hill Foundation, Dignity and Power Now, we'll see what that is later, and the Aspen Institute, which everyone knows is another one of these global think tanks. They have their little conferences. They tell people all the awful things they're going to do. They make all the very highbrow elite arguments for why people like me need to be censored. They censor the Hunter Biden laptop. You can go on at long last with the Aspen Institute. As regime as it gets. Let's skip down. We're just going to hit some things. So the couple, so they owned, where are we? Teleflora. So they had a janitorial business. They purchased Teleflora. Then they purchased the Franklin Mint, a company that sells mail order collectibles. And a lot of people will be familiar with them. It's maybe millennials and Zoomers might be too young for it, but the rest of us would be familiar with the Franklin Mint. The couple have fought several lawsuits against their various companies over the years. Among the first legal battles arose when the estate and charitable foundation of Princess Diana sued Franklin Mint, alleging they did not have permission to profit from her likeness. The couple countersued and ultimately received $50 million, which they donated to charity. Very interesting always when there are royal family connections, because the royal family seems like it might not exist anymore. Another legal challenge, they were sued by the left-leaning Center for Biological Diversity over the Resnick's ownership of a massive underground water storage facility near Los Angeles, giving them control of billions of gallons of water for their crops in the drought-prone area. The Resnicks have also faced criticism over their ownership of Fiji Water, the world's largest luxury water brand, over the company's alleged overutilization of water from the tiny island nation, which has suboptimal infrastructure for its own residents to access water. And there's been, I think, issues with the, I believe, chemical content of their water, or there was an issue at some time. Don't sue me for defamation. During the 2000 Democrat National Convention held in Los Angeles, the couple hosted a cocktail party at their Beverly Hills mansion, honoring Senator Dianne Feinstein, then California Governor Gray Davis, and former President Jimmy Carter. Say it ain't so, Jimmy. The Resnick Foundation supports a variety of left-leaning groups, including the Aspen Institute, the Aspen Center for Environmental Studies, the Anti-Recidivism Coalition, and Conservation International. The foundation also heavily funds higher education. So they have college investments, and those colleges produce work that supports their agenda. It's not complicated how it works. The Resnick Foundation also donated to Los Angeles-based left-leaning groups in recent years, including Dignity and Power Now, a Black Lives Matter connected group that is a member of the Check the Sheriff Coalition, a far-left criminal justice organization demanding the resignation of Los Angeles County Sheriff Alex Villanueva. And they did that because Villanueva was not going hard enough on COVID. Dignity and Power Now failed to report several donations to the IRS, including a $100,000 grant from the Resnick Foundation in 2016, promoting calls from right-leaning watchdog groups for investigations into the use of funds by the group's founder, Patrisse Cullors, who faced criticism over using money collected by BLM-affiliated groups to enrich herself and her family. So BLM, the environment, the Aspen Institute, and then they own Fiji Water. So let's go to Fiji. Let's take ourselves a journey to Fiji. Hopefully my highlights are still there. Wow. Wowie, wow. What the heck happened to the ABC article? It opened up halfway. What the heck is happening here? So everyone will remember, actually, you know what? That must not be from that article. Hold for processing. So many people will remember that on various instances, instances is what I wanted to say. Donald Trump would drink water. Oh, wait, not that yet. In very strange ways, overtly strange ways that the media responded to by suggesting that Donald Trump was somehow injured or maybe retarded in some way. Let's watch some of this clip. I didn't even bother watching the clip yesterday because I kind of remembered it, but I think it's probably going to be fun. So let's go ahead and we'll do that.
Thank you. 17,000 jobs. Thank you. They don't have water. That's okay. What?
They don't have water. 17,000 jobs. They don't have water. That's okay. He's looking at what? The monitor.
Japanese manufacturers, Toyota and Mazda, announced that they will be opening a new plant in the United States that will create 4,000 jobs. In China, we also announced $250 billion worth in trade investment deals that will create jobs in the United States. From China, I flew to the city of Da Nang in Vietnam to attend the leaders meeting for APEC.
That is amazing. Okay. 17,000 jobs. They don't have any water. Fiji, right in my mouth. Look at it. I mean, eventually, right? Eventually. Just saying eventually. What are we supposed to think it all means? Right? I mean, honestly. Gonna pretend it's all real? I don't think we can responsibly pretend it's all real, can we? I know it kind of ruins the entertainment value of the show a little bit to some people. I don't believe that it should, because I believe that we are in the slapstick comedy phase right now, and people should have a laugh and enjoy it. I mean, you got to figure out how to stave off the psychological torment, right? And I can't do that for you. And the Daily Weimar can't do it for you. And Donald Trump can't do it for you. You got to do it for yourself. There is extremely advanced psychological warfare being played on you right now. No one can solve it for you other than you. So you have to solve it. And you cannot solve it by solving the TV. It's solving something much deeper. So I think that the case is fairly solid there on the Resnicks, on why their interest would be significant here. And so the other interest, as I described the other day, of course, is Rick Caruso. And, you know, for people who didn't listen to the subscriber stream, I can see that there's, wow, over 700 people watching in the chat. And if you are, please hit thumbs up. So there's a number of people that probably didn't hear this from the subscriber stream the other day. Rick Caruso is a real estate magnate, and we'll see that in just a second. He ran for mayor. Take this down for a second. He ran for mayor in 2022, outspent Karen Bass 100 million to like 9-10 million, 100 plus million. He was way down. Right at the end, he came real close, looked like he was going to have it. And then she ended up winning by 90,000. Extraordinarily low turnout election, 43% turnout for the mayor of Los Angeles. Isn't that crazy? Don't you think people would care more who their mayor was? Supposedly Rick Caruso was the people's candidate, and Karen Bass, of course, is a communist and probably just plopped there. And it seems like now, maybe for a good reason, which I think is a dynamic worth discussing. Lost at the last second, immediately congratulated Karen Bass for her win, wished her good luck and Godspeed, and said nice things. And now he is looking like one of the heroes of this period, or not heroes. He's kind of being portrayed as the guy like, we could have had this, but instead we have that other thing. And the other thing makes it look okay. I'm trying to find a particular video right now because there was video that I saw on Telegram, and I've gone through so much of this stuff over the last few days. Okay, so we saw the Palisades video the other day that went viral that Elon Musk pushed hard, suggesting that Pacific Palisades and Palisades Village had been totally demolished, destroyed. And we were told that Rick Caruso, of course, owns Pacific Palisades Village. And now there's video that suggests that, no, it wasn't destroyed. Now, I don't know which one's right, okay? I'm not telling you to believe one thing or the other. If you are able to get to the bottom of this, I'm more than happy to look at the video and judge it. But have a look. I mean, was this taken yesterday? Was it taken a week ago? I can't tell you that. But it's fine so far. Why is the sound off? Maybe there's just no sound in this video. Or wait a second. I think that it gets to the burned area right after. Oh, yeah, there it is. So that's my question about it. Only, is this real or is it not real? Okay, so burned down, devastation there. Rick Caruso's complex is fine. Is that fine too? Oh, look, more stuff is fine. More stuff is burned. More stuff is fine. Is it fake video? It can be fake video. All right. I might be getting hoodwinked on some level, and I might be participating in the hoodwinking of you, but I am attempting to participate in the unhoodwinking of you. And if we didn't have fire retardant, unhoodwinking would be the name of this podcast today. But it's not going to be, I don't think, because of fire retardant. I might have to use both because I like them. Let's go here. Rick Caruso. So Rick Caruso has a USC Caruso Department of Otolaryngology. Otolaryngology. Nope. Otolaryngology. Otolaryngology. Okay. His department that he sent a massive donation to conducted research related to the coronavirus pandemic. How about that? Isn't that incredible? Caruso's money went to fund an ear, nose, and throat facility at USC. And by the way, he funds the law school, I think, at Pepperdine. That studied COVID. They did COVID studies. And let's continue, of course. I wouldn't leave it just there. That's just not enough, right? Did his commercial real estate business suffer losses during the COVID pandemic? So they say there's no real information directly on what happened with his businesses. But then you jump down to 3, and it goes beyond just the question that I asked for. And it says, Caruso implemented stringent health and safety standards policies at his properties, overseen by an epidemiologist, not a real scientist, not a scientist at all, just a guy that uses mathematics and a totally inept understanding of human activity to create models to justify the government funding projects. That's all an epidemiologist is. They're part of the planning process in a communist administrative state. This suggests proactive measures to maintain business operations safely. He advocated for mandating face masks stating that it could save lives and prevent another coronavirus shutdown. Cure coronavirus? No. It could prevent a shutdown. Because, of course, masks have no ability to prevent coronavirus, nor do they have any ability to stop coronavirus. They can't cure it. They can't stop it. They can't do anything. And speaking of that, wait, I have another one. Oh, the USC one. Where's the USC one? Hold for processing. Oh, where's my USC? I'll find it 1 second. Sorry. Here it is. So December 9th, 2020, USC Caruso research team develops pioneering procedure mask. Is that it? I mean, honestly, that's a face shield with a cloth mask under it. So I hope that's not it. But apparently they've done something amazing. Here's what they say it does. A procedure face mask. Oh, gosh. Infectious disease experts have long known the way to keep a deadly virus from spreading across hospital wards is to confine contagious patients to negative pressure rooms. Now researchers at the USC Caruso Department of otolaryngology, I bet that's how they say it, otolaryngology, I've got it, head and neck surgery are taking that to the next level, developing a procedure face mask that lets them safely scope their patients during the COVID-19 pandemic. The mask goes on the patient, not the doctor. Negative air pressure inside the mask prevents viral contamination of the clinic space, and built-in sensors and airflow balance control allows the use of supplementary oxygen, meaning even very sick patients can undergo endoscopy. I guess maybe that's how they say it. So they built a mask to protect them in the hospital, which should be a clear sign that cloth masks don't work once again. Never worked. No chance that they could possibly work. Dumbest thing we ever did. Maskies signed themselves up for a lifetime of groveling. I hope some of them have made themselves redeemable communists since then. We shall see. I assume a great many did, and that's wonderful. And I do apologize for your brainwashing. We all had it. And I don't hold it against you, except to the extent that you are still supporting those causes and or not jumping on the other side to kind of fight back against that and give the people a fighting chance. Let me see if I can. Okay. Let us keep going. Here is CBS News on Rick Caruso. Man, this is the longest episode ever, I think, or basically the longest episode ever. I think I did one that hit this mark. Maybe it was assassination event number 1. CBS News. Los Angeles developer Rick Caruso shares vision for coronavirus recovery. Why would he have a vision for coronavirus recovery on April 20th of 2020? Seems awfully early for a private citizen to have hatched a vision that he gets to talk about online. Caruso advocates a slow, methodical reopening of the country guided by medical data. His company has hired the head of infectious disease from the Keck School of Medicine at the University of Southern California as a consultant. So that would be, is that his epidemiologist? I don't know. Because if the head of infectious disease is an epidemiologist, well, then how are we supposed to trust the science? Because it is not science. Amazing. So he was very strict on COVID, wanted lockdowns, wanted masks, wanted people vaccinated. And this is the guy whose properties are not destroyed while other people's properties are destroyed. And so we've got the Resnicks. They control a bunch of water. We are told there is a water problem. Whether or not that is true, we were told it. So we look at these things and then we understand on a massive scale that there happens to be a problem with California water. And the movie Chinatown, made 51 years ago, is all about that very problem in California. So the problem's been around forever. The Resnicks have been a key player in that problem for a long time. And let's just look at one more Rick Caruso article. This is Pepperdine University Press. Why are they having Rick Caruso? Well, he's got a law school there. Also, they're having Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt. Why are the two of them hanging out at Pepperdine together? Right? If I'm not mistaken, Trump has given mixed messages about Stitt over the years. I'm just wondering why he would be giving one of these lectures at Pepperdine with Rick Caruso. But let's leave that aside. By the way, they have a foundation. The Caruso family has a Caruso Family Foundation, okay, involved with all sorts of stuff. April, at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, Caruso became part of both a federal and state task force providing expertise on reopening the economy safely. Kevin Stitt founded Gateway. Is that the computer company? Wow. I didn't know that about Kevin Stitt. That's really something. Remember Gateway PCs? Wow. I think my family had one of those. Early in his career, Caruso served as the youngest commissioner in the city's history when Mayor Tom Bradley appointed him commissioner for the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. Huh. Well, I'll be damned. The Los Angeles Department of Water and Power was Rick Caruso's first appointment to the government, the youngest commissioner ever. And now he's an ultra bazillionaire who has an ear, nose, and throat facility at USC named after him, a law school facility at Pepperdine named after him. He's just directing COVID policy by his kind language, I guess. I mean, maybe it's all not. Maybe it's all not. I don't know the man. You know, all the proper caveats. The former commissioner of the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, the youngest one. How does one become the youngest? Like, how young was he? You know, he's not that old a man right now. Let's see how old Rick Caruso is. I'm going to ask the machine a few questions. Let's start with how old is Rick Caruso? 65 years old, born in 1959. Okay. He just turned 65 3 days ago, in fact. Okay. When was he appointed to commissioner of the DWP? August 28th, 1984. So he was 24 years old? No. He had had his birthday that year, obviously. So 25 years old. And he served there for less than a year and continued as a member of the board of Water and Power Commissioners from July 1st, 1985. That began his career in public service. What did he do there? Let me see this. Sorry. So he was there for less than a year. And so I asked the machine, was there anything major or controversial he did while at the DWP? No specific information. All right. So that would take a deeper dive if there was anything there to turn up whatever might be there. But I think all of this is pretty astounding. Okay. And so Rick Caruso's being framed as the guy that, like, we could have had this guy and instead we got commie Karen Bass. Well, how did that happen? And what does it mean that they're pumping up Rick Caruso? To me, it suggests that they're trying to make him the next mayor or the next governor. There's a takedown, Gavin Newsom, a takedown, Karen Bass, both not elected, installed in illegitimate governments on the basis of fake elections within the last 3 years. Gavin Newsom was recalled. The recall election was a farce. They announced the result as a blowout before the election even ended, I think. Total farce. Enough people hated him for him to be recalled, and then he won with like 66% of the vote and much bigger turnout than Karen Bass's mayoral election. I'm not suggesting either of them are good. I'm not suggesting either of them are legitimate. But I'm suggesting that they might have been put there in that place, not by communists, and by people who are actually in control of things, and they are being used as our boy Blue is being used. And I think that this stuff is becoming more apparent as we go on. Is it possible that someone kept that man from winning, or that was just a big op for Rick Caruso to make himself seem government worthy, which is what this op right now is also making Rick Caruso seem. That guy is a politician now. That's what registers in people's minds after he runs, after people vote for him. Then they see this crisis and they think, this crisis could have been avoided if only we had Rick Caruso. And so there he be. I guess we'll see next steps. You know, this is one of those things that people can be like, well, that's crazy. You're just connecting some dots and that's not how it's going to be. Maybe not. In 6 months or a year, if they're putting Rick Caruso up for mayor or governor, then I was right. Okay. There's just nothing else to it than that. It's not, you can't be wrong now about that, seeing this, observing this, and then just wind up being right in the future. Scott Adams likes to think that's how it works. But again, Scott Adams is a gatekeeper and a normie. And so when he's wrong, it was for the right reasons. And when other people are right, it's for the wrong reasons. Now, what is happening in Los Angeles, I do not know. Can it be a white hat op? Yes, it can. And that is very, very upsetting to people. Okay. And I understand why. There was another member of my chat today who sent pictures from California. I might as well pull up a picture or two from that. Again, I have no ability whatsoever to verify these things, except for the fact that for 3 years in my Telegram chat, this person has seemed fairly obviously to be a person, an authentic seeming person. Okay. I think this is representative of a real person who lives in California and has experiences there. So let me just quickly download these photos. I wasn't intending to show these, but you know, information among other information. Don't make your judgments based on a couple of photos ever. Don't make your judgments based on what my opinion is ever. If I encourage you to think about other things and those things lead you to draw new opinions for yourself, wonderful, but that's not my goal. My goal is to snap the effectiveness of the psychological torment that people are constantly inflicted with by the government. And not only the government, like the uniparty level, the regime level, it goes high. So that is a picture of an absolutely devastated home up in Altadena. Okay. Now, if that picture is real, that house is clearly burnt to shit. All right. So I'm not, once again, denying that people's homes are burning down. I've never denied it. I don't encourage denying it because we can't know. Then next door to that house is this, where you have these homes just fine, yet out on the street, this car is burnt beyond imagination. Got Lahaina. This car right here. Grass over here, not a problem. This car, absolutely devastated. Is that a conclusive case? No, it isn't. Okay. I understand it's not a conclusive case, but information among other information means that you can't just say, well, I know whatever it is you're suggesting has to be wrong. Therefore, I can't trust these pictures. There are so many other pictures of other things that suggest this isn't the way it is. Don't care. I don't care at all what other pictures other people have seen and whether or not they agree with my assessment. Doesn't matter to me. Doesn't matter to me that you live 10 miles away from this. Okay. 10 miles away from a burned down house doesn't mean anything. All right. I lived in California for 18 and a half years. For the vast majority of that time, I was in that mindset. I was blind to the things that were happening around me. I would accept excuses from authorities, especially if my social class demanded acceptance of that. I would push back here and there when I could, but I wasn't trying to make a stink. I wasn't trying to make a big deal. I wasn't trying to like get the blowback and stuff. I've done it multiple times. People tried to crush me in 2015 and 2016 just for not liking Bernie. And by the way, Bernie's celebrity relations op in 2015 and 2016 was Obama's. Just to be clear, Obama's celebrity wrangler for his campaign worked on the Bernie campaign. Multiple did. I know those people. I used to work with them. Not on political stuff, of course, because I have never worked in politics. But they were both in the nightlife industry just as I was, or in the entertainment industry. One of them, I guess, managed a band for a little while or something. So, that was bad, but I was mostly like I am now, so whatever. And then I just didn't give a shit ultimately. So more damage here, and those are the hills just behind. So that kind of gives you some sense of the area. And if you're familiar with the area, of course, you probably know the addresses and whatever else. I'm not trying to dox anybody. Obviously, I'm not trying to send anybody the area. But believe what you will about that. But a lot of houses standing up just fine. A lot of houses absolutely devastated. It seems to be precision targeted. Okay. Could a band of organized arsonists accomplish that in any believable way? I really doubt it. I really do. I think there's something much bigger going on. Like I said, I think the whole thing in general is an act of war. Certainly the media response and the psychological part of it is definitely warfare. And you can't know which side it's coming from. And there's a lot of silly shit coming out in the media that makes it seem like this story should be backed up from, which is generally an indication that that it is largely an op, despite the damage. And listen, man, I get it. The psychological torment, the EBS messages, the urges to evacuate, the fear of the people around you that makes you adopt their fear so that you can help them, people evacuating other people. And again, I hate to be insensitive, but what matters is what got burned and where. Okay? It doesn't matter that people had a traumatic experience. It matters to them. It does not matter in any sense in the analysis of this situation. You have to put that aside. You just have to. Okay? You got to apply the same epistemology as always, which has to be consistent and has to be grounded in things that you can know directly or that are impeccably sourced or logically necessary. So if it is targeted in a precision fashion and it's not from a band of arsonists, which is, in my mind, absolutely absurd. It's an embarrassing explanation. Okay. Did they light all the houses at one time? Like, aren't they talking about like 2,000 structures or something at this point? Did they light them all at once? Were they a roving band of organized arsonists? This seems to me like something bigger. Could something bigger like that make sense by the regime so that they can cover up evidence of their own misdeeds in these houses, which a lot of people are saying these are Democrat donor areas. Maybe there's a lot of very high profile, very corrupt, very wealthy Democrats who are having a very strong signal sent to them from one side or the other. Or maybe evidence is being covered up. I think all these things are possibilities. I'm not denying anybody's possibilities. I guess there's some slight possibility that these things did happen from climate change, right? We want to leave all the options on the table. I mean, that one's pretty stupid. Yeah. Homeless people, stupid. Organized arsonists. Okay. I guess there's some possibility it could be that. But otherwise, it's something much bigger. And it's definitely something much bigger because you can see the way it's being communicated. So, would it be, and I'll leave on this, and this is something to ponder, maybe think about it over the weekend. Would it be acceptable that this situation was caused by the good guys, right? Because the situation ultimately might benefit the Build Back Better plan, or it might be a mass removal of, and I know that there's some tinged language here, which is retarded. I mean, it's a descriptive word that makes a lot of sense, but some sort of infiltration or infestation of prominent communists, prominent global regime communists in this area, whether they are on the uniparty right or uniparty left, and that a very grave threat was sent to them, or that a move was made to influence the leverage operating at a very, very, very high level, one that we cannot, is totally opaque to us. You know, this is, everything is always in mid-negotiation. One side does something, the other side responds. There's some spectrum there. It's a push and pull. And there's a lot of options, and we should think about them all. If you want to get fully rid of the global regime and punish all the criminals, if it looked like this, would that be acceptable? People have to think about that. I'm not sure that that's what this is. Just like I'm not sure they're burning evidence, and a lot of people think that. I'm not sure if they're doing Build Back Better. I'm not sure what they're doing, but it's intentional. Even the liberals in Los Angeles understand that now. And let's end on this line. It is our responsibility, through discerning these things, to be the fire retardant of the future. I'm going to check the chat just one last time for Rumble Rants or anything of the sort. Okay, I think we're good. All right, everybody, I'm going to wrap things up here. I'll be back on Monday at the same reasonable time on the same reasonable podcast network. I don't have a network. Masks and lockdowns don't work. They lied to you about a pandemic, and Joe Biden will never be president.
Well, what?
You know who I am, don't you?
Well, you ain't Fiona Apple, and if you ain't Fiona Apple, I don't give a rat's ass.
Ah!
And what's wrong with being an angry prophet denouncing the hypocrisies of our times? What do you think, Max?
Do you want to be an angry prophet denouncing the hypocrisies of our times?
Yeah, I think I'd like to be an angry prophet denouncing the hypocrisies of our times.
It's not true. It's more true than I would perhaps prefer.
I will not let you down.
We do a little trolling. It's called We Do a Little Trolling.
What? In my mind, that's the end game.
If you're listening for free and would like to support the show, the best way to do that is by signing up for a paid subscription at imyourmoderator.substack.com. You can find the info stream over on Telegram at t.me/veryreasonable. The merch site is cancelcouture.com, and for all my other links, you can visit linktree.com/imyourmoderator. And I'll see you soon. Down on the rain.